Oh, hi everyone. Hi. How are y'all doing tonight? Hi. Hello. Hello. Happy... My goodness, it's Thursday. Chat, it's Thursday. I felt like yesterday should have been Friday. That's where I'm at emotionally. How's everyone doing today now? Chat, we're just going to quickly watch this video just so you can see why this topic is going to be so cool. This is just a tour. This is in New Zealand. It's a cave in New Zealand, chat. This is real. These animals are located in New Zealand. There's also some in Australia too, although when I was looking into the phylogenetics, evidence seemed to suggest that those were possibly contaminants that were taken over from New Zealand, so it looks like the origination point of this is in New Zealand. Old Zealand is underwater, Smikes. Old Zealand is underwater. And then Zealand in general still has yet to be formed by the volcanoes in the area. So they're still like oozing liquid hot magma to produce new islands and land masses, and that's where it's going. Smikes, can't trust me with this kind of information. Duh! We might have a guest here today.
Maybe for her special appearance.
Hi, beautiful.
Wow! Oh no, she's green screened out again.
So, the lovely baby Alona will be taking you on a journey with some glowworms today. Do you want your chair? Do you want your co-host chair? What do you think? Do you want your co-host chair? Are you going to be up for your co-host chair today? She's not sure, chat. Let's give it a try. Let's see if she likes her co-host chair today. In part because it makes me chuckle. Whee! There we go. There we go. Okie dokie. There we go. Look. All right, baby Lana. We're gonna look at these. So, real life animals, real life shots in New Zealand. Any guesses? Any guesses as to what kind of developmental stage these animals are at? So that is actually a really cool component of them, is that of how their development looks and what exactly stages they are at. Hugin, how dare that's gonna get Hugin? I will not take the self-deprecation. See, Hugin is good self-deprecation. Yeah, that's crazy. Hugin, little one thinks that's crazy. Larval stage from both Smikes and Hugin and Cliff and Dacum and Tactics. This is the overhead image, and what I want y'all to notice is there's actually two different types here. There's this one here. It's not, we're gonna get better video shots to see, but think of it as like a long rod-shaped animal. And then here is again another long rod-shaped animal, but it has legs. Hi, Tiffany Green Eyes. Tiffany Green Eyes, guys. If you're not checking out Tiffany Green Eyes, legendary streamer extraordinaire, psychedelic art. Please go check out the lovely, amazing Tiffany Green Eyes. Hi, Gwendolyn P. I have 37. Gwendolyn P. Speaking of which, the prediction is, will Baby Alona make an appearance tonight? With 759 channel points on the line, the correct answer is yes. And now we can predict for Gwendolyn P's 37. Don't you dare, Gwendolyn P. I don't have enough. Chat, I'm going to start the next prediction of how many topics we're going to get through tonight. Remember, I mentioned that bioluminescence and the glowworms are, I think, two sides of the same coin, so I'm not going to split those for right now. Yeah? So we're going to count those as the same topic, I believe. If that's okay. Hi! So, Tiffany, both. So the ones with the legs are adult females, and then the rod-shaped ones without the legs are larval stages. Here's the crazy part. These are called larvimorphs. In addition to... I know she's adorable. Larvimorphs are animals... So Grimly, she's chewing on stuff, but it's not clear if she just has discovered her mouth or if she's actually teething. Do you want to get out of the chair? Is that funny? Okay, come on. Come on. You can be co-host in my lap. That's okay. You can. There we go. There we go. So Grimly, it's not clear. She's just putting her hands in her mouth, and again, it might be because she thinks it's cool, or it might be because we're starting to eat. So, larvimorphs, I don't think we've talked about in the past, and it's not really scientifically figured out why larvimorphs exist. It means that the larval stage and the adult female almost look identical. That there is no real giant metamorphosis when going from the larval stage to the female adult reproductive stage. The males, however, there are. This is where it gets weird. There is sex-specific changes with the males where they undergo your standard body changes when you undergo metamorphosis from a larval stage to adult. And not only that, they actually have wings. These females do not have wings at all. And so it's a very different and unique approach from what other insects do. And I've been digging through the literature, and I can't find a really tight-knit evolutionary explanation of what, where this even falls into in the development of organisms. One hypothesis that may or may not be accurate, again, none of these can be pointed out. Yes, these are a kind of midge, Cliff, indeed. Which I get. Cliff, the midges, y'all, we've seen the midges that we found under the amber, right? We find midges all the time. These are just a unique species of midge. And for larvimorphs, these bioluminescence, that's not like a feature of bioluminescent insects. It's not like, because we talked about the fireflies, those are not larvimorphs. So it's a unique behavioral trait that they have. One hypothesis has not been proven in any way, or any experimentation being done on it, is that the larvimorphs could be the first step in evolutionary time, so that you have one component, like you have what's the best way of saying it? When eggs are developing and larvae are developing, if you have less, what's the best way of putting it again? Less energy is being put into developing the two adult sexes and only one. That would be an easier thing to have done on the animals. Right? So genetically, you have less evolutionary steps to undergo. And that's the big difference, and maybe possibly why larvimorph evolved. So that the females aren't undergoing a lot of extra feature changes as the female. It's only going through the male pathway. It's a hypothesis that, it hasn't really been proven, but it's one way of thinking about it. Becca, we have to pause. Come on now, Becca. Why are we pausing? Hi, Claire. I won a thing. Oh, what kind of thing did I win? What kind of thing did I win? Hello. Who is the old guy in the Godsmack shirt? Hi, Optic Nerve. And hello, Epoch. Welcome on in. Midges are very cool though. We didn't even get the drum roll. A crochet treat. I didn't even enter. How did I win something? We won something. We didn't even enter. How did we do that? I'm excited. I know there was a very large choo-choo in Claire Burr's stream today that the lovely Becca was suggesting that they would do a crocheted item if it hit a certain level. My goodness. Hi, Thea. Welcome in. Whoa! Did I make you jump? I made you jump for saying hi to Theo.
Together, we can rule the galaxy.
Thank you for the resub, Theo. How you doing, Theo? Theo. Hi, Theo. Welcome on in, Theo. How you doing? Guys, go check out lovely and amazing Epoch. Epoch is actually having a celebration stream this Saturday for 300 followers. So go help Epoch blast that 300 followers out of the water for that celebration there. So, best of children's, I can even see her lips moving. Thank you, Rose. She's pretty good at that, right? She's pretty good. So, These are the larval stages up here, and these are the adult female stages, the larvimorphs of the glowworms. Let's get back to the video. We'll talk about why they glow as well and how they glow. But this is in that cave in New Zealand. It almost feels Avatar-y, right? Thank you for the lurk, Theo, and thank you for the resub. Theo, by the way, it's been 13 months. Theo, that's a tad crazy, Theo. That we've known each other for, well, we've known each other over 13 months. Thank you so much, Theo. Any guesses, Epoch, as to why they do this? How you doing, Rastigo Mike? Rastigo, I would love a sample from this place. As you can see, they even are wiggling up above on the top of it. Communication. I like the idea of communication. So actually, Claire, they are called the glowworm caves. Where in particular beyond that, I do not know offhand. We can always get a map in a little bit. It is a type of communication, Epoch. The question then is it between each other or communicating to something else? And again, this is a similar image to what we just saw in the static one here. So y'all see, in this static one, there's these beads hanging down. There's beads on a string. So that's released by the larvae and by the adults. And those are what are actually lighting up. As it's like, it's almost the exact same image I pressed. Epoch says, I'm inclined to think that they're not communicating to one another. Just because I don't anticipate they have sensory organs to read the light themselves. Epoch. So fascinatingly enough, Epoch, we don't fully understand if they do communicate between each other. There might be some cues. So it doesn't look like they have really anything visual, which would be, right, what you're suggesting is if they don't really have eye spots or eye cells, because they're in dark caves, maybe they can't really see well. There's some other things that bioluminescence gives off. Occasionally there will be, it's a metabolic byproduct, and there could be an odorant given off. We haven't studied fully to know whether or not they've done, so I'll say that as a hard maybe. The thing that's been proven, though, you're right, is not communication between each other. Again, I just showed this video because I think it's so beautiful, and it's really striking to see. Jimmy's here. Let me say hi, Mr. Jimmy B. Hey, Bame, how you doing? Welcome in, Bame. Thank you. She is a cutie patootie. She just turned 4 months old, and she's a silly willy. She's a silly willy. But welcome in, Bame. We're talking about bioluminescence tonight, and this animal that was requested called the glowworm. Article on the research unsure of its province on glowworm tour. Oh, Rose Sand, glowworm tourism. I guess it makes sense that this would be a tourist attraction. I'm not surprised. And yeah, the charismatic mycofauna. Michael Hall. Ooh, okay. Awesome. Thank you for the paper. Scroll to see if they have any figures in here. Some of the figures, they might have like maps in here. It doesn't look like they have any of those in here. We'll have to check it out. Hi, Grand Admiral. Thank you for the alert, guys. Also, go check out the lovely and amazing Grand Admiral Quack, Lego builder extraordinaire and storyteller. Go check out the Grand Admiral. See, tourism. Australia's glowworm tourism is described multi-million-dollar industry, commercially valuable organism. Yeah, so Rose, it's suspected that the reason they're in Australia is due to colonization. Like, they should not have already, they shouldn't have been there. And that's where they ended up because of, you know, mismanagement of crops or what have you. We've had that happen with Australia before. Mr. Freaky Creaky, Mr. Creaky, how are you doing today, sir? I need something from you, please.
Together, we can rule the galaxy.
Mr. Freaky Creaky, thank you for the resub for 1 year. That's almost a year. Wow! Mr. Creaky, thank you for the resub, sir. How the heck are you doing? Welcome on in. The thing I need from you, my friend. That is not what I needed. That is not what I needed. I needed chat. Our friend Freaky Creaky is very close to hitting that YouTube partner status. And I was going to ask Mr. Creaky if you wouldn't mind sharing your link to your YouTube page. We'll get you the Twitch shout out as well, my friend. And we'll direct folks to your Twitch page because that's where I met Freaky, and Mr. Creaky still streams live on Twitch. He's just also does on Saturdays on YouTube. And he's very close to that YouTube partner status. And I just was wondering if you could share me that link. Thank you so much, Mr. Creaky. If you could please, I will pin the heck out of this, actually. Perfect. We'll pin the heck out of that. And that way, Mr. Creaky, just if y'all wouldn't mind subbing to Mr. Freaky Creaky on his page, it's almost there. It's that last little hurdle. Last little hurdle. Yeah. And Darth Verbach. Hi, Darth Verbach. Wow, we have so many people to shout out. We have Bane. Shout out Bane. I met at a partner meetup, which was really cool. And then we also have the lovely Freaky Creaky, and we have Darth Verbach in his house. We have so many cool people to shout out, y'all. It's so humbling. Like, so many cool and amazing people come in here. Go check out BAME as well. And it was a blast. BAME, I wish that we had the meetups again, because that was so cool to meet such a unique group of people. Like, you know, where I wouldn't come across the stream necessarily. And now that we've been able to meet, because, you know, I just want to, I want it back, BAME. Back. Yeah, me too. Why can't we do that? Mrs. Hello, is that Miss Sarah Lynn, Darth Verbaka? Hello, Miss Sarah Lynn. Yeah, hi. You have a fan club. That's why everyone's here. It's because of you. Yeah. She, BAME, she has her little chair next to her. Right over here, she's got this little chair called the Bumble. And the past 2 nights, she's been sitting in that chair because it props her back up. And so she's been sitting there while we've been doing the chat, and she just, like, will hang out, and she'll be my co-host on camera. Tonight I put her in there, and she was good for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden she started stretching, and she was just like, I gotta get out of here. So then you popped out, and now you're okay in Dad's lap. Yeah, is that true? Yeah. Can I rent your baby? Right. I mean, if you need to. Chat, you know, BAME, who else has a newborn? Okay. Our lovely friend, Mr. Freaky Creaky, just had a new son. He's also a first-time father, and he's also just a legendary streamer. He does sports games, some like action games, some Fortnite, a bunch of different things. He's also nearing his 1,000th follower on the platform, so we very much will want Mr. Freaky Creaky to get there. And hello, Bubbles is here too. My God, hello, Bubbles. Bubbles, great stream earlier. I am just a shout out machine right now. First of all, Freaky Creaky, go follow Mr. Creaky. Nearing the 1,000th follower on Twitch, nearing YouTube partner, and new first time papa as well. Please go check out the lovely and amazing Mr. Freaky Creaky. Love you, Creaky. Few months away from first-time grandfather before it's one of my... Oh, that's awesome, Rose. Rose, I was telling Lita the other day, I was like, you know what? I think it'll be cool to be a grandfather. And she's like, you're just newly a dad. I'm like, I know, but it'd be cool, right? It would be cool. And a cool Diablo partnership? Heck yeah, Mr. Creaky. Heck yeah. Hi, Supernatural Rider. Welcome on in. Creaky. Oh, and Mr. Creaky is doing a charity all month to the Trevor Project for Pride Month. So another reason why Mr. Creaky is gold. Right? Yeah. You heard it from her, folks. Baby Alona has spoken. Now then, it's Bubbles. She is a sweetie. I cannot tell you how much I love this little girl. Before we get to more of the biology, of what's happening in the glowworm caves, I thought it'd be nice to kind of look at a little bit more of the imagery associated with it. Yeah? She agrees. We should 100% look at the imagery behind it. Wife and I are both love being a parent. Grand feels different. Gets all the excitement and fun. Less, yeah, exactly, Rose. My mom was super excited. Dad hasn't been able to fly up yet, so Mom flew up and he was at home with the dogs, and then he was supposed to fly up and he got he broke his arm, and then his arm healed, and then they had to re-break his arm because it healed improperly, so now he couldn't make it up, unfortunately. Guys, someone else to go follow, the lovely Darth Furbaka in his house. Darth Furbaka is a food and drink streamer extraordinaire. He was making a delicious meal today, and guys, quoting members of his community, Darth Furbaka could make poop look delicious. The man is just, he always says, you make me happy. You just being there. And it's true, like, when you go there, you have positive, great vibes and delicious food. You want to try your chair again? I love it when you commentate out of your chair. It's much funnier. Here, do you want your banana? There you go. And actually, because of Darth Furbaka, we met Supernatural Rider. Without Darth Furbaka, we never would have had Super. Darth, you raided over to Super one day, and that's when we met Supernatural Rider. So without you, Darth, one of our big community members, we would not have met either. So thank you so much, Darth Furbaka. Yeah, but see now she's in the chair, and it's just... Actually, Creaky, these chairs are awesome. So, I know we're totally rabbit holing, y'all. We have not at all touched the science yet. The chair, Creaky, is called the Bumble chair. You can get it off Amazon. And it's this, like, cushioned material, and it has really good back support. And you can start putting the kiddo into the chair at, like, 2 months old. And we have to be very careful watching them at the beginning, because when their neck gets tired, they, fall forward. They don't fall over, but they just kneel forward, saying you take them out, and it trains them up to have, like, stronger neck. What did you just do? And now her neck is so strong that she can sit in this chair for like an hour, and she's fine. And then what's cool is, too, there's this nice padded covering that you can get for it, so if she throws up or poops on it, then you can just wash it and you're all set to go. So it's like a really neat thing. So I would highly suggest it. I think it was off Amazon. Someone got it for us as a gift. I'd never heard of it before, but apparently regular people do hear about this. So hi Nelf, welcome on in. Chat, another shout out. I promise we'll get to the science in just a few moments. Is the lovely it's Bubbles is in his house. Bubbles, another gaming streaming legend. Bubbles, you're breathtaking, and we love your face, extreme. VTuber model, in fact, Bubbles has, and just a very kind, wholesome community she's got over there. Dudes' poops are something fierce. Listen, Mr. Creaky, I've heard that the little boys are much worse. When we were in the hospital, they were like, and in the hospital, and also when we were in the baby training class, they're like, you're not having a boy, are you? No. Oh, thank goodness. And it's because apparently when you open up the diaper, they always pee at you. She has peed on me once, I think. She's only pooped... Well, okay, Creaky. Her diaper has exploded several times on me. But it's fine. Actually, I haven't gagged yet. I've been very proud of myself, Ricky. I was very nervous I'd be... possibly get sick with it, but no, we've been all set. We've been all fine. Thank you, Nelf. How you doing, Stink in my rear? How you doing, Stink in my rear? Welcome on in. You want your rattle? You want to show the party people your rattle? Yeah, but Creaky, that shouldn't be a thing, right? Poop explosion? Rose. Oh my goodness. I was having a meeting with the head of my organization one day. She's laying here on my lap. This is not like a trivial meeting. All of a sudden, I feel my leg got wet. And, Rose, the diaper's leaking. Rose, it's not pee. It's not pee. And I had to be like, I am so sorry. Because it's a Zoom meeting, obviously. I have an emergency here. Give me 5 minutes. They're like, yeah, no problem at all. But like, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, super, the smoke. Or, BAME, we're in New Jersey. The readings for air quality max out at 500. As worst, 1 is best. Last night, it was 460. And that air quality is really, really poor. And so I haven't been able to take the little one outside for a few days. We actually bought a couple of extra air purifiers because the day before yesterday we were outside before it got really bad, and she's been coughing up a storm. So it's today, now it's down to like 300. Hopefully it'll be better the next day. Guys, someone else to go check out is a lovely and amazing Supernatural Writer. Supernatural Writer does a workout streamer, co-working streamer, occasional food and drink streamer, Christmas tree putter upper, makeup doer, super anything else. I pretty much do all of it. Supernatural Writer. Go check out the lovely and amazing Supernatural Writer. Alrighty, y'all. Where's smoke? Canada. Forest fires in Canada, Becca, are the things that are, and the wind is pushing it down to the United States. And it's so much so it just looks, the levels are worse than what you would normally get in like a really major Chinese city. Because usually, right, when you think of smog, you might think of like Beijing, something like that. But it's apparently these, like that 460, it would make international news if that were in China. Like that's how uncommon that level is. Yeah, but supposedly it's gonna, the wind pattern is changing tomorrow. So we'll see. Darth, I am going to nerf you so hard. And both, actually, yo, Darth, you and Super both. This is absolutely inappropriate. The two of y'all being rude to them thyselves. Both of your comments are getting nerfed. Oh my god. Super has been just modded a couple of times. I know. How dare she do that? That's not funny at all. No. You think it's funny? She thought it was marginally funny. Chat, let's continue on the glowworm caves in New Zealand. Again, this is just more of a video looking at what these things look like and what we can compare them to versus like actually this isn't yet the science behind it, but we're getting to the science of why exactly they utilize the bioluminescence, what they're using it for, what they're communicating with. It's my tradition too, Rose, but I gotta fight against it. Sleep well, Darth Rabaka. Scary when you think of all the trees that have burnt, also going to affect the air quality. Yep, the downstream effects of that, Dacom, is something that will be very painful for a long time. Unfortunately. Not unfortunate, though. Not unfortunate. Oh, my goodness. Don't eat your... Here, eat this. Eat this. Right here. We do have... I want to do one more shout-out before we go on to it. Our friend Cricket is a legendary gaming streamer. She's almost at 1,000 followers. She is 15 followers away. When she gets 1,000, she's going to be doing a 24-hour stream. Please go follow our friend Miss Cricket. She's one of the nicest people out there.
Where's my drink?
Please go drop her that follow. Squalls! Thank you, Crafting Squalls, for the hydrate. So please follow the lovely Miss Cricket as well. Hey. To play that game, Crafting Squalls, you know what I play. You know what I do, what I do, what I do. Alright. Not Hollywood. there are the caves, the glowworm caves. Hi, Athena Cat. Hopefully you're doing well, Athena. So crafting. They're not just poop up in the ceilings. So that is real. That's how it looks. When you go into these caves, like we mentioned, that the tourism industry is huge of seeing these glowworms. And they're bioluminescing. You want to come back over, Dappa? Yeah. They're high anchored. They're bioluminescing as a means of, well, they are communicating something. They're not, at least we don't think they're necessarily communicating with each other, but rather they're trying to send a communication elsewhere. Yeah? She has a lot of thoughts on the communication side of things. It's actually what we suspect to be the original form of communication on there. Oh, is it ATP consumption? Oh, Zen, I've given up on Lita being here for this, Zen. So we've just gone ahead and done it. You'll get a second one, Zen, once she comes back. Which, who knows is when that's going to be. But I promise you, Zen, you will get number 2. But I just had to do it, Zen, because I was tired of waiting. But I'm not tired of people following the anchored albatross. Woodburner extraordinaire. Go check out the legendary anchored albatross. Zen, how are you doing today? How are you doing, Zen's house? So, BAME. It is actually a unique chemical reaction that happens that gives off bioluminescence. So, for example, in the best studied one, wait, what? What, Zen? Oh, you're over there. Oh, I got you, Zen. So, BAME, in fireflies, which is one of the most commonly studied bioluminescent animals, it is a chemical reaction. I know. It is a chemical... It's okay. It's a chemical reaction of luciferase and luciferin. So the luciferase is an enzyme. Yeah? The luciferase is an enzyme. And what ends up happening is that luciferase cleaves the luciferin. That release of a particular molecule, like submolecule on the luciferase, or luciferin, causes it to light up. Oh. Yeah? I know, Mr. Creaky. This is the... Why are they... Now she's quiet. ATP swabs used to test cleaning food plants a lot. Works great. 15-minute test. Ooh, okay. Yeah? She's just very... I know, Nelf, eventually she's gonna learn. She's gonna learn to talk to computer screens. I think this is what we agreed yesterday. And she'll just be talking to computer screens without any real reasoning. But so... I know she's just taking my marks. BAME, unfortunately, in the research on glowworms, it hasn't been shown what the molecular mechanism for it is. Like, we don't know if it's something similar as a luciferase and luciferin. She is not taking the pacifier, y'all. I was trying to subtly, like, here, pacifier, maybe? Your mom will be back in a few minutes, I promise. So yeah, BAME, they just haven't looked at the actual molecules in the glowworms. Yeah? Gwen, she'll like this VOD, but she'll also like clipping this VOD up as well. Which, by the way, y'all, if you enjoy the silly content that we have here, we have a YouTube page that all the nice VODs go up on, clipped down and everything. I don't know how this will be clipped down, but make sure to check out the VODs on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Came home, wife went out for dinner with her girlfriend. I had a crying baby for 2 hours. I feel you, Mr. Creaky. Keep thinking of you and Lita two conversing during these, and then there's Ilona co-hosting for her mom. Exactly, Dakum. She's doing a good job. It's really my fault, Dakum, that I'm not translating well. Bame, thank you for hanging with us. Appreciate the heck out of you. Sleep well, Bame. Sleep well. Buttons to push? No! No, not on the stream anyway. That's a surefire way to just end the stream left, right, and center. Yeah, I know. I know. You okay? She has so many thoughts tonight. Alright, let's continue on the glowworm. Because this one, we don't need to hear. We can just watch. So, this video does give it away. The reason they're doing this isn't because of, necessarily, we don't think it's because of communication between them, but to other prey, to other animals, in particular prey. Oh no, I know. They're trying to attract potential prey for it. You get excited about glowworms too? Tiffany, I'd love for you to make a painting inspired by these glowworm ceilings. I think that would be very cool. But yeah, they're twinkling as a way to attract prey. Yes, and actually, Dak, we're going to talk about why it's primarily in animals in the ocean, deep ocean, that we have the bioluminescence. Stay safe with the smoke. Thank you, Theo. For a second, Theo, I thought you were telling me to go have a smoke. That's clearly different. No, we're talking about glowworms. These are native to Australia and New Zealand. Originally New Zealand, we think they've been invasive in Australia. And they bioluminesce. And we're talking about maybe why they bioluminesce. So one hypothesis that we had, thank you to figure it out, 9 more! Cricket, are you here? Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to pin this message. I'm going to pin the message right here. And we're just going to will it into existence, y'all. We're just going to will it into existence. It's going to stay there the rest of the stream. And we're just going to get 9 more. Easy squeezy. Lemon peasy. Right? I think so. Possibly. So, why do the glowworms glow? That answer can also be answered if y'all follow our friend Elfie Bean. Wow, I am so distracted tonight, y'all. Guys, go follow Elfie Bean, legendary artist, graphic artist, pixel artist, game jam dev, and so much more. Go check it out. It's time for you to go, little one. I know, you've been fussy boots. Say boy!
Do we have fussy boots?
Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on the glowworm biology. Her leg rolls, yeah, they're cute. The doctor did not think that they were cute, Cricket. The doctor did not think they were cutie patootie. Alright, let's talk about the glowworms now.
A magical glow illuminates the night. The mesmerizing lights in a dark ravine seem to draw you nearer. And that is exactly the idea. Because behind the beautiful glow lies the ugliest of killers. This is the larvae of the fungus gnatfly, known locally as glowworms.
Now, just something to point out, these aren't the only ones that will release this bioluminescing material. The adult females also do. The adult females look very similar to the larvae. When they don't really undergo classic metamorphosis, they're just very, very similar, and because of that, they're called larvimorphs. The males undergo metamorphosis, and the males have these like big wings, and they still are able to, like go the distance and like have a different mating behavior and where they fly off to. There's a lot of things that happens with the males that classically happens with insects, except these. The females very much look like the larval stage. There's no wings. They also release these strands to attract prey.
The magic of their bioluminescence is just the center of their web of deceit. Around them hang glistening gossamer strands. Another delicate beauty that belies a deadly intent. These are fishing lines, cast out to ensnare the unsuspecting. The glowworm turns on its light. A chemical reaction powered by an enzyme called luciferase.
So their chemical reaction is very similar to the chemical reaction that happens in fireflies, which is pretty cool that it's such a similar component of how it happens. So we'll talk about how that reaction is, but it's the exact same stuff, luciferin and luciferase materials. Pretty ensnaring, right, Zen? It's beautiful. I also, Zen, when I thought of glowworms, I thought of this episode of the Smurfs where they use glowworms to cast a spell to protect the village.
And it certainly has a devilish purpose. Insects are drawn to the light, believing they are the distant stars they use to navigate. The fishing lines snag the prey. The vibrations alert the glowworm. But this small fly is not enough to take the glowworm's fancy. It wisely waits for more.
The fact that Smikes, this is an animal with beads of excrement out of it that glow, you put it that way, it's a little strange.
A hoverfly. Its stripes mimic a wasp, but it's harmless. Predator and prey are more evenly matched. But the fly is at the worm's mercy. The fisherman reels in its line and sucks out its victim's juices.
Remember, the victim's juices are called the hemolymph, or the insect blood. Bon appetit.
During this juvenile stage of its life, the glowworm must eat as much as it can, enough to see it through its brief life as an adult fly. For up to 9 months, the glowworm lays out its traps each night. Each line can take 15 minutes to make, and it might lay up to 25 of the traps. At the end of the night, it will ingest the lines to reabsorb their nutrients. Nothing.
Which I thought was actually maybe the coolest part of their biology, is that they're not just releasing these random strands that are potentially high energy because of all the luciferase and luciferin that they have in them, and just leaving them to stay, but they do recycle these strands that aren't used, which I think is very energy efficient, but also just long-term efficient for what they're trying to get done.
Nothing goes to waste in this dank ravine at the bottom of the world.
I thought of those old glowworm toys much worse. It is, Smikes, isn't it? So let's jump to hold on. Did I close the video? No, here we go. Here it is. This is the video that we chatted about. We actually watched this last Friday. If y'all remember, this was looking at the brilliance of bioluminescence and how bioluminescence works. And just because of, we were talking about how the different strands that were created from these glowworms have luciferase and luciferin in them. It's the fundamental principle of bioluminescence that allows for these strands to glow. So I thought, let's jump over it for a second into bioluminescence. We'll jump back into the glowworms after this, and then we'll talk about other animals that also bioluminesce and maybe why the deep sea is such a big heavy hitter for it, and also why these deep caves are. They certainly glamorize them. They must have a good PR firm. Look, Smikes, again, Smurfs episode, toys. I think only Zintaus knew the horrors that we're gonna instill in us. Right, Zen? Somehow Zen knew, folks. Somehow Zen knew. Y'all make sure Cricket is 9 follows away. Go drop her that
Imagine
follow.
a place so dark you can't see the nose on your face. Eyes open or closed, it's all the same. Because the sun never shines there. Up ahead, you see a light. When you creep in to investigate, a blue light flits around you. I could watch this forever, you think. But you can't, because the mouth of an anglerfish has just sprung open and eaten you alive.
Of things to note, though, is that the anglerfish has a very different mechanism than what the firefly has or what the glowworm has. The reason it bioluminesces is due to bacteria, versus the reason why fireflies and glowworms bioluminesce is due to the molecules luciferase, which is an enzyme, and luciferin, which is the molecule that's cleaved by the enzyme. A pretty one, the fish. She's very pretty. I can't see the nose on my face normally. Smikes, here's a question for you. When you think of yourself talking, do you see your face moving, and do you have a vision of what you look like when you're talking? It's a weird existential question.
You are just one of many creatures at the bottom of the ocean who learned too late to appreciate the power of bioluminescence.
I do, because I worry how my eyes might look or how my face might look when I'm talking, and if that'll give off a negative feeling when I'm meeting with someone or something. I don't know. Hi, that was Ghost. David Lewis, that was Ghost. Love the illustration of the anglerfish. I know, right, Cricket? Cricket, this whole series, these TED Ed videos, I think are really, really well illustrated. And they're also simple, I think, to understand in terms of the illustration. Like, it's not overly detailed. But I agree with Grimly. If they had put in, like, P. Sherman 42 Wild Bay West Sydney, that would have made it far easier to know that it's truly an anglerfish. Because, I mean, that's the telltale sign.
Bioluminescence refers to the ability of certain living things to create light. The human body can make stuff like earwax and toenails. But these organisms can turn parts of their body into glow sticks. It's like nature made them ready to rave. Why? In one way or another, bioluminescence improves a living thing's chances of survival.
And one big thing to point out is it's always suggested that bioluminescence evolved for something like predation, either eating or protection, and then eventually it was co-opted for communication. So it didn't evolve to communicate, it was it then happened to communicate later on. Like the evolutionary time is what it drove it to. Hello, Tarzan. How you doing, Tarzan? Welcome on in, Tarzan. How you doing, Tarzan? Yes, and drink more arsenic. Drink more, cook less. Formerly drink more arsenic. You have to hit Poke Start first because you haven't started yet the Pokemon game yet. Can't imagine processing that way. I struggle to just think of one thing at a time. Adding one, it would not, Tiffany. You're breathtaking. My brain, though, it has like 400 things going on at once, for better or for worse. I hope, Tarzan, you've had a great day. We're talking about some glowworm biology today, as well as bioluminescence, and then we might get to gynanondromorphs. We might not tonight, but we have some stuff queued up on that as well.
Take the firefly. Its ability to glow green helps it attract a mate on a warm summer night. But it's just one of many living things that can glow. The railroad worm, Phryxothrix hirtus, can light up its body in 2 colors, red and green. Would you eat something that looks like an airport runway?
So again, protection from predators, or also to get prey. So increasing your likelihood of getting food or not being eaten is primarily originally why these things evolved. Hi, DeMarta goes, yeah, platypus fur. Yes, so that is under UV light, they glow. The fur glows. I don't know. I don't know. DeMarta goes, I can't remember if we know how much has been identified in terms of the vision of the platypus. So there are some insects, for example, that can see UV spectrum of light, and there's some that also, like, further and further, like, usually can't see infrared, but those are the kinds of light sources that these animals can see. Just got out of work and relaxing. Can't wait to learn. Glad to have you here, Tarzan. Tarzan, the glowworms. I'm just want to show you a peek at the video then. Let's see, not this one. This is the one. So this is the ceiling of a cave in New Zealand, and these strands that are hanging down are emitted by the glowworms, and they leak out these strands. And it's a way to attract food. Oh yeah. No, it's a secret tunnel! Yes, Tarzan. You got it, Tarzan. That's why you belong here. I know. It is. So drink more. It's really cool, but I think as Smike's pointed out, it's a little bit terrifying because it's not. I think it would be a little less scary, like, for us, if it was some kind of mating response between individuals, right? Of like attracting a mate, just like a firefly. Like, you don't think of a firefly as being terrifying, but there are fireflies called the femme fatales that they light up their bodies and they mimic females of other species to get the males over to them, and then they eat the male. So then, if most fireflies were like that, we might think that fireflies are a little bit more menacing, but because they talk to each other, in the language of love, most of the fireflies, at least as Mike said, their PR firm, we don't associate fireflies with being anything like negative in their signaling. Versus here, it's very beautiful, but remember, they're just trying to get food. And that's most likely the evolutionary origin of why bioluminescence evolved in the first place, is either, again, bringing in food sources or protecting yourself from being eaten. And then it was co-opted along the way, meaning evolution acted on it in order to bring in other features, like maybe there was a genetic duplication, maybe there was a mutation that came in, and all of a sudden it was now used for, one individual started communicating, and that one had a survival advantage, and then it's just started doing better and better.
Neither would any sensible predator. The flashing lights keep the worms safe. Then there's the deep-sea shrimp, Acanthophyra purpurea. When it feels threatened, it spews a cloud of glowing goo from its mouth. Who doesn't run the other way when they've just been puked on? Plus, that puke attracts bigger predators who want to eat the shrimp's enemy. So what if you can't bioluminesce? No problem. There are other ways for living things to make bioluminescence work for them, even if they weren't born with the equipment to glow. Let's revisit the anglerfish, moments before it tried to eat you. That glowing bait on top of its head? It comes from a pocket of skin called the esca. The esca holds bioluminescent bacteria. The anglerfish can't glow there by itself, so it holds a sac of glowing bacteria instead. Remember the firefly? It can actually make itself glow. Inside its lantern are 2 chemicals.
And just if y'all are interested, this chemical reaction is the same chemical reaction that is happening inside of the glowworm. They also have luciferin and they also have luciferase. What I don't know is how much the researchers have utilized them to see if there's any efficiency differences. So they looked at the sequences that they identified. Both the sequences for luciferase and luciferin are contained in the glowworm. So that's why presumably they have the glowing and bioluminescent ability. Why? Why that is in terms of efficiency, we don't know. We haven't done like a comparative look. They haven't isolated this particular molecule because there are some differences in terms of sequence if it's more or less efficient than, let's say, a firefly's one. Why? Hold on, Cricket. I used to know this. I used to know this. Okay, so yes, that's what Kith is right. I have confirmed this was my suspicion. So in Latin, as Grimly points out, to luce in Latin origin means light. The word lux. It's the word lux. Just like Lucifer's nightclub in the hit Netflix TV show Lucifer, starring Tom Ellis. I got you, Cricket. I got you on the modern day fancy pants stuff. I got you. Chad, do you know about Loving Miss Cricket? She's on her 1,000 follower push. She's almost there. She's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 follows away from getting 1,000. Please go follow our lovely and amazing friend Cricket. Back to the luciferase and luciferin.
A luciferin and a luciferase. When firefly luciferase and luciferin mix together in the presence of oxygen and fuel for the cell called ATP, the chemical reaction gives off energy in the form of light. Once scientists figured out how the firefly creates its luciferase and luciferin, they used genetic engineering to make this light-producing reaction occur inside other living things that can't glow. For example, they inserted the genes, or instructions, for a cell to create firefly luciferase and luciferin into a tobacco plant.
So they haven't done this in the glowworm, but the same principles should in theory apply. Endemic, yep, New Zealand, and Gwen, the other place heavily studied was also Australia. But it's actually suspected, Gwen, that they were colonized originally from New Zealand to Australia by human intervention, for better or worse.
Once there, the tobacco plant followed the instructions slipped into its DNA and lit up like a Christmas tree. The beauty of bioluminescence, unlike the light from the sun or an incandescent bulb, is that it's not hot. It takes place in a range of temperatures that don't burn a living thing. And unlike a glow stick, which fades out as the chemicals inside get used up, bioluminescent reactions use replenishable resources. That's one reason engineers are trying to develop bioluminescent trees. Just think, if planted on the side of highways, they could light the way using only oxygen and other freely available clean resources to run.
And we did talk about this last Friday when we brought up bioluminescence with fireflies, is that if we had this on the roads, I don't know if it would, but, it's like we had the thing, it was like, well, maybe it would cause harm to the local animals because of the light pollution, but the counter argument was if they're in places with already existing light pollution, it's not going to make things worse, maybe. But it would help with in terms of the environment and oxygen production and CO2 reduction and things along those lines. I'm not sure I want to glow. Drink more, cook less. You glow every day. I see the way you look at your wife.
Talk about survival advantage. That could help our planet live longer. Do you find yourself thinking of other ways to put bioluminescence to good use? That glow stick you swing at a rave may help you find a mate. But how else can bioluminescence improve your survival? If you start thinking in this way, you have seen the light.
So if that's how we take bioluminescence, is that it's a survival advantage, then it all of a sudden makes sense that it's for hunting behavior. Dana's Kitchen, Dana, no, ma'am, you both. I was at your stream today, okay? I saw when y'all look at each other, you both glow. Okay, y'all don't need luciferase or luciferin in you. You don't need that. You have each other, and that's all you need. Indrak, how you doing today? Do not eat glow sticks. That is very true. Do not eat chemicals. We do not endorse chemical eating on the stream. Indrak, welcome on in. The glowing character in the Lorax. I don't remember the glowing character in the Lorax, Grimly. I'd have to look back on it. It was, the Lorax is one of Lita's favorites, so we'll have to look back and read it and watch the movie too. Definitely not or have any superhero power. A big no disadvantage far outweighs any cool power. Yeah, there's no guarantee you'll get a cool power. In the movie, it was due to pollutants. Okay. Did you not like the movie, Grimly? Grimly, that was the first movie Lita and I ever went together to see, like at a movie theater. And I remember she was excited because there's this line in the movie where he's called a fuzzy peanut. And it was apparently in the book, and she was so excited for this line. And they said it in the movie, and then she was very, very happy about it. Danny DeVito is actually the Lorax in the movie. Is there a non-toxic glow gel? I am not sure now. Let's look it up. I have no idea. So if Fuzzy Peanut, Smikes, I know what you're thinking, you naughty boy. So apparently, and this is from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, ingredients in glow sticks are generally non-toxic and in most cases do not require medical attention. However, if a glow stick fluid is swallowed, it may cause an upset stomach and mouth irritation. This does not mean that I suggest you should go drink a glow stick. But this is at least what the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia suggests. Again, don't go drinking these things. That's just one web source that suggests you'll probably be okay. Never seen the movie Gwendolyn P. It's okay, Gwen. We're gonna fix the lack of these movies. We're gonna bring you The Mummy Returns, and then we're gonna bring you more fancy movies. The Meg. We'll bring you The Meg. We'll bring you some Sharknado. We'll bring you all the things. We'll bring you all the things. Speaks for the trees. Thought of that line we were watching the video. Oh, that's right, Grimly. That's a good quote from the Lorax. Yeah. Yeah, this is Gwen's favorite movie now. So let's learn a little bit more about these glowworms. We got 2 more videos on them that do, like, they have different angles and different ways of thinking about what they do, and then we'll delve into a little bit more into the idea of bioluminescence.
Deep in the Australian forest lives one of the most mesmerizing animals on Earth. Inconspicuous under sunlight, at night, they get together to form living constellations so beautiful that prey can't resist.
Honestly, though, after researching this is definitely something that I would want to go check out. So this was, by the way, redeemed by Zentaus as a deep dive. Zen, I really want to go and look at these in real life now. These are absolutely beautiful.
These are the deadly sirens of Australia, the glowworms. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animal Logic. Tonight, we're in the Great Otway National Park in Victoria, Australia, looking for some of the smallest animals we've ever filmed, glowworms. We heard this is one of the best places to see them, and we couldn't pass up the opportunity to film one of the greatest animal light shows on Earth. We're at Grey River right now, and it's pretty late. The sun's set, the stars are out, and the moon is pretty much full. We're out here tonight to try and find some glowworms. After a while of looking, we got deep into the forest, and there they were. Oh my god, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. It looks like I'm walking through space. The moon is full, and there are stars above me. But I'd say that the stars that are here, scattered among the trees, are just as formidable.
So,
Despite their
These are some that are not actually within the cave, but there's also some out in the forest. Earlier, when we were looking at the cave-dwelling ones, those were hit up in New Zealand. That doesn't mean they're not in the forest of New Zealand, but there's also ones that are in caves and in forests in both locations.
Name and appearance, glowworms are way more closely related to a housefly than to an earthworm. They're actually baby insects. The glowworms that we're looking for tonight are the larvae of a fly species called the fungus gnat. These glowworms are to fungus gnats what caterpillars are to butterflies. Some bioluminescent beetles are also called glowworms, but here in Australia, glowworm refers to the gnat genus Arachnocampa.
As she mentions, there are some misnames. So glowworms have also been named as for fireflies, because firefly larvae also have a glow to them. They do bioluminesce, but they don't bioluminesce for feeding behaviors. It's just a byproduct. So it's every firefly in the larval stage has a bioluminescent glowing ability. Even there's dark fireflies, which is, feels like a misnomer, but in the adult stage, there are fireflies that don't glow. And you might be like, well, then why are they called fireflies? And it's because in the larval stages, they do glow. Yeah. If larger creatures got tangled in these, will they go after them for food? Grimly, do you mean they'll go after the glowworms? Or will the glowworms go after them if there's a larger creature tangled within them? Probably a bit of both, I would say. So sometimes, Grimly, if a big predator gets stuck in it, usually, and like it's big enough to escape, usually they're big enough where they the predators themselves won't go after the host. Just like if you go into like you walk into a big spider's web, you'll just continue moving forward and you won't bother eating the little character. The glowworms, they actually use the vibrations from the strands. Hi Crystal, welcome in. To detect size. So actually, Grimly, what's really cool is that vibrational cue gives a lot of information to these animals. In part, how many things they've caught and what is the size of the thing that they've caught. There seems to be a threshold for this. If there's too much movement, they wait, and they won't yet go attack the prey. So my guess is if you put in something big enough into the strands, they'll just be ignored, or just wait until maybe they've worn themselves out and then they'll go drink the blood of that. Now, my bet too on top of that, Grimly, is probably there's olfactory or smell cues, so they probably won't go after things that they can't bore through. So they do have like a really sharp tooth that allows them to, crack a hole into the organism that they're eating and drink out its blood. That probably wouldn't work, let's say, on a mammal. I'm not saying a mouse would necessarily get stuck in this, given the hanging nature of the strands, but something that size might have difficulty just getting stuck into it. But again, it's vibrational cues. There's too much action going on. They wait until the animal wears himself out, and then they go and feed. This isn't too dissimilar from spiders. It must have been 5-ish months ago, we had a paper that we talked about, was group hunting in spiders, and it was asking how the spiders knew when it was time to hunt together against a particular prey. The way they were able to do that is they detect and sense the vibrations, and they can detect there too. It seemed like they moved in more when there was really heavy vibrations, and then they slowed down, and when the vibrations started slowing down, that's when they went in for that target. There's a kind of a neat pattern. It makes logical sense for us, Grimly, but for something like a spider or a worm to think about, it's probably more instinct at that stage, but it's still really cool. They wouldn't go after us if entangled. So Grimly, one thing that I would love to try is putting my hand there and just wiggling your finger on one of these strands and then leaving your finger to stay put. And so I'd be curious to figure out, Grimly, what would happen is if you wiggled around your finger there and then like simulating almost one of these insects getting stuck and then held your hand still, would that elicit the trigger? But if we walk through it, no, I mean, nothing would happen. But I just wonder what level of specificity they need. Like, again, if it's anything like spiders, there needs to be smell cues as well. So maybe they'll make a motion towards your hand, but when it smells like, you know, the oils on our skin, they'll probably back away from it. It would be my guess. I didn't find any papers looking at, like, them trying to trick the glowworms and what to eat. Sleep well, Becca. I hope you feel better tomorrow, Becca. I hope you feel better tomorrow. Sleep well, Becca. And as Crystal said, exactly. Not alone. Like the song, You're Not Alone.
There are 9 recognized species in this genus. One of them lives in New Zealand, another one in Tasmania, and the remaining 7 in mainland Australia. The glowworms at the Great Otway are the aptly named Arachnocampa otwayensis. Their name means the spider worm from the Otway. They don't have 8 legs, but they do have a similar hunting strategy. Their glow comes from strands of mucus. A single larva can make up to 70 strands, which can be up to 40 centimeters long in some cases.
And these are a little bit different measurements that we saw a few videos ago, but it's still an interesting way to think about it. And what's really cool to me is that they drink back up the mucus as a way to recycle that material. Right, Nelf?
Flying insects and other small animals get attracted to the light and then get snared in the mucus. The glowworm then descends from its nest and consumes its prey, just like a spider in a spider web. Their most common prey are midges, though mosquitoes and moths are often consumed.
And then we did see that large fly that was also consumed. Interestingly enough, they don't have the ability to break down the chitin exoskeleton of these animals. That's why they bore into them and drink the blood or the hemolymph from the animal instead of actually going and eating the entire mass of it. It's just the most energy efficient component is the hemolymph or the blood, and the fat body, which is the adipose equivalent tissue in the animal.
This might seem like an overcomplicated way of hunting, but it's surprisingly effective, and a single colony might contain tens of thousands of individuals. The only trade-off is that they can only live in areas with no wind, as it would tangle the strands.
So, just to point out, that hypothesis right there is not proven. That is just a hypothesis as to why they live in dense forest and caves is because of the lack of wind. It would be near impossible to prove something like that because you'd have to do some kind of very intense evolutionary experiment, and we don't have the technology to do something like that. But it's a neat hypothesis nonetheless. If the strands that were, tangled, then they couldn't survive. My assumption is... Hi, Tort! Welcome back. My guess is that something like this, probably what they ended up doing. Tort! Something they probably did is it evolved just where there probably is another reason why they're living in these areas independent of these strands. Because it's not that they started making the strands and moved to these areas, they must have already lived there, and so they must have offered some protective benefit for it. But so Gwen, if they get super tangled, but what does that mean for the animal, right? Like, how do you measure fitness change as a function of the animal having tangled web? Right? Like, you could do the experiment where you can have, let's say, a Y maze. This is what I'm thinking, Gwen. You have a Y maze. In one tunnel, you tangle the webs. In the other tunnel, you don't. And then you let prey go down the Y maze maybe equally or whatnot, and you see how many prey get stuck in either. But is that why they don't live in non-windy areas? I don't know. I think that's, again, just a hypothesis proving. I don't think that, it's not hypothesis proving, it's still hypothesis producing. Also, is it constant wind? Is it any wind? Like, that's, see, because the way it's phrased, Gwen, is they evolved for this behavior in particular because of this thing. And that gets to be the very, very difficult question to answer. Like, there's no way of actually doing it. No, Claire, no one's working on this question because there is no money for something like this, unfortunately. Even the luciferase and the luciferin inside of these animals, while been sequenced, has not been worked on because, again, the funding situation and just, worldwide kind of thing. But it would be cool to figure out.
That's why they're mostly found in caves or deep in dense forests.
Tourism money goes to tourists and the companies who are putting them out, not the research, Claire. Oh, Claire.
Forests. Their bioluminescence is the result of a chemical reaction. A luciferase enzyme acts on a protein molecule called a luciferin. Their name might sound familiar because they come from the word Lucifer, which means light giver. And light they give. The larval stage of the fungus gnat will last for up to a year, and then they'll pupate for just a week. Female pupae are bright, and they're thought to attract the adult males who are waiting for the females to emerge from their cocoons to mate with them.
And remember, the males and females look very different. The females look very, very similar to the larval stages. It's called the larvimorph characteristic, that there's not really a big physical difference between larvae and adults. There's still the internal metamorphosis, for example, development of the ovaries and the ovarian tract, but there is not the big body rearrangement that they have wings or anything like that, versus the males look very much like your regular everyday old fungus gnat with wings and, a very gnat-like creature.
I would tell the males to chill and just let them be, but their final form only lasts about a week, so there's no time to waste.
And it's not weird to have the males hatch out first and be waiting. A lot of different insects have similar biology to it, where the males actually hatch first. The parasitic wasps that I used to work with have the same effect, and the males, they did have a shorter lifespan than the females, but it was a weird lifespan. The females lived as long as they had eggs. So if you kept them from mating, they could live months. And if you kept them from having prey, like to inject into, because they are parasites, larval parasites, they would live for months. If you gave them a bunch of prey to inject and infect, they'd live less than a week. So it was very much dependent on what they had in terms of their reproductive biology to it. It's quite incredible. I don't know if that's what they have as well. So these glowworms, there's X number of eggs, or if they have more similar egg production that what we have to fruit flies, where there's stem cells that are dividing asymmetrically, or maybe there's not one like it. I don't know. Interesting questions to ask.
After about 7 days of mating, the female lays about 100 eggs and dies. Males die shortly after, as they cannot feed. Since light is a necessary part of their life
cycle is just also, if we go back for a second, it's just an interesting thing to see how these different stages look and all the
after, as they cannot feed.
So this adult fly in particular is the male, and so it wasn't entirely clear that was from this life cycle and how they're talking about it, but that's what the male looks like. The female looks still very, very much like the glowworm larva. Again, it has some legs like we saw in the imagery, but not any big fundamental difference. And I just think that's a really cool facet of their biology.
Since light is a necessary part of their life, they have evolved a lot of ways to control it. They can manage the intensity and emit more light when the time is right to catch prey. If they feel vibrations in their snares, they will glow brighter. If they're exposed to light, they will switch themselves off.
Which again is another really cool facet. So Grimly, I wonder again, getting to Grimly's question, if we got stuck into the web, because there's different amount of vibrational cues would translate to a different amount of bioluminescence. I do wonder if something like that, if you put your hand into it and wiggled it around really intensely, if you'd actually make them glow more than what you would have with like just a regular midge that was caught. So these would be a really cool experiments to ask, again, is how they're detecting it. Again, we think vibrational cues, but really working out that mechanism would, I think, be really neat.
They're also known to observe each other and synchronize their glow cycles, though we're still not sure why. There's so much we still don't know about these beautiful hunters.
And that's one thing that she said that also really, I think, is amazing. Chat, I'm a little bit... Zin, you picking this was as a deep dive, I think, was really cool, because there does seem to be, like, not necessarily a colony lifestyle, this way she called it, because they're not working together necessarily in unison for something. But it does seem like that there is some light pulse that is synchronized. And if there is light pulse that's synchronized, that must mean that they're in some way detecting each other's light sources, even though they don't have eyes, right? There must be some kind of light sensing organ. And that would mean that they've, again, presumably co-opted this system for communication, which is usually what happens when we come to the whole feature of, first, it's something that prevents predation. Second, it's something that helps with eating, you know, those two components. But if you get to communication, that's downstream, and this may have actually happened with them, but there's no data really to back it up. It's just very loosey-goosey on that front. Gwen, we do have a video. I think it was here. Was it here? Hold on, Gwen.
Well, these shouldn't be hard to spot at night.
Gwen, we do have...
But the fly...
Here we go. So Gwen, a fly gets caught in this one and eats the... Not really gore, no. You don't really see anything.
But the fly is at the worm's mercy. The fisherman reels in its line and sucks out its victim's juices. During this juvenile stage of its life, the glowworm must eat as much as it can, enough to see it through its brief life as an adult fly.
What's weird, Gwen, is that well, it's, I guess, not weird, but their particular feeding behavior is dependent on removing the hemolymph from the body. So they're essentially drinking out the innards. It makes sense from a efficiency standpoint. The hemolymph and the fat body tissue have the highest protein and sugar content, which is what the animals are going for, not the exoskeleton. But it's interesting that the rest of it is just left like mush, like the exoskeleton is just left behind. It attracted to so the fly was attracted because of the lighting. So the bioluminescent light that's lighting up the strands, that's what the fly is being attracted to. And interestingly enough, in this video, Gwen, I don't know if you can see, but right here, there's actually another prey that's been caught. That's another gnat. That gnat isn't what the glowworm is going towards. In part because it detected the vibrational frequencies, and it wasn't as high of a vibrational amount as it was hoping for, presumably. That was this is a worthwhile prey to go get. But when the fly hit, it was a large enough vibrational cue that the animal was like, okay, this is presumably a good enough food source for me to go eat. Let's go eat this food source. And so that's why it avoided, or didn't eat right away, the gnat, but it ate the fly. And given that these animals eat up the strands again once they're done, for the night, my bet is that gnat will be eaten at some point in the evening. Glowy love bead strands. Kith, it's such a weird metric, right? It's glowing, it's love, it's also food. It's just terrifying beauty. I think many animals use vibration sense we don't realize. Nelf, we found one on accident. When I was in graduate school, there was construction that they were doing above and below us, and they were drilling into concrete, and our whole lab was shaking. And we were told, ignore it, the animals aren't going to care. And we work with fruit flies. It turns out that a fruit fly ovary will start to pop and induce cell death if there is high vibrational levels. And the thing that we were analyzing was dependent on egg counts. And so the vibrations made it so that we could not count eggs because they weren't laying any eggs. Yeah. So and then that also led to us thinking of like, well, what about our physiology? How would we react to that kind of vibration? If you're sitting in a lab and there's vibrations up and below you, presumably that's causing stress, and that's what the flies are undergoing. But what do you undergo? And so, Nelf, that led to a lot of us in the lab like worried about like, it was frustrating now because we lost 6 months of work before we finally were able to move to a different space for a year, and then we ended up moving back, but it was very frustrating. Yeah, they were jackhammering into the concrete, Gwen, and they were like beating the concrete with like hammer. They were like renovating lab spaces above and below us, trying to make it appealing to people. It didn't work. It was still disgusting, but it was something they were trying to do. Guys, I totally forgot to do this. Also, go follow our friend Ristorak88, the lovely Ristorak. Please go follow Risto. Calendar maker extraordinaire, gamer, mental health chatter. Go check out Ristorak. Gwen, it was fascinating. We did gain insight in Nelf, but unfortunately we couldn't publish on it. Because Nelf, to publish on something like that, you need to invest a whole lot more resources and figure out why exactly that's happening. Like, what is the... Like, that's not a controlled experiment, right, Nelf? Like, jackhammering above and below you, we don't know the frequency, we don't know, like, the frequency of the vibrations, we don't know how often they're happening, we don't know to what frequency and, like, the flies are feeling it, like, proportionate to their body size. There'd have to be a lot more work invested into that, so it just became instead a sad internal point of things that we need to watch out for. For sure, knowledge is better, but like Nelf, we didn't have a good way to disseminate said knowledge. That is more my qualm about it. Like, if we could have disseminated that in some particular way, of like, if nothing else, a warning to people of like, don't think that vibrations do nothing. But yeah, Gwen, it was very frustrating because usually like a group of 5 flies in 24 hours can lay anything from, honestly, I think the lowest we had was in the 50s. The highest we had was in the 200s. 5 flies in 24 hours. Depends on your strain and your species and whatnot, but we were then getting like less than 10. And we were comparing it to flies that have been exposed to a stressor, and those usually will lay about 10. So it'll go about to like 10% of the unexposed. But Gwen, when the unexposed are laying 10 eggs, and the exposed are also laying like 10-ish eggs, the variance in them is so large there's no difference anymore. And it's all because of how like they're regulating and detecting their environment and how their ovaries are behaving, and it's remarkable science. It's just, it was very, very frustrating, especially when it's like everyone was like, it's fine. Turns out it wasn't fine.
But we're starting to see the light.
Love the illustration. This is quite a nice little just sketch of how they're hanging from the ceiling, and then they're releasing these little beads, and then bioluminescing through the beads to attract the animals. Terrifying, but beautiful. We have one more video on the glowworms. And again, this is hitting home very similar topical points, but in my mind, us explaining it in different ways and seeing from different angles is a very exciting way to really like nail down the point. And maybe if anyone has any questions, you know, it might answer some of them. Remember, if you're nervous about asking a question, you can always send a whisper to one of the mods or myself. We're happy to answer questions that way as well if you don't feel comfortable asking live, but please do. There's any and all kinds of questions are welcome here. And I thought, you know, this video too was really cool because they got a really nice look at the internal anatomy of the glowworm. So this is all just gut tissue, and you can see it's quite transparent except for when you get to the gut. The gut is much more white in color, which is pretty standard for our
Together,
Astro
we can
Canuck!
rule the galaxy.
Professor Canuck, how are you doing, sir? Astro, welcome on in. One of the single greatest science streamers on the platform, astrophotographer, legendary Lego builder, hot food eater, hiccupper, published author, Professor Canuck. How are you doing today, guys? Please go follow our amazing friendo, the one, the only, the wizard that is Astro Canuck, and make sure to buy his book, Beetle Blues, available on Amazon. Professor Canuck, how are you doing, sir? Welcome on in. We're talking about glowworms tonight. And the biology behind that, and also some bioluminescence. We might get to gynanondromorphs tonight. Let's face it, we probably won't get to gynanondromorphs tonight. But it's still like some of the stuff on the menu as well. And you knew they would attract astronomers. I know, Cliff. All we need now is Nerduino. And then we have our... Oh, and I guess Moo Hoodles as well. Then we'll have all of our space people, out of this world people in his house. But Astro, these caves... There's caves full of them, Astro. And this is what they look like. So they are hanging down these strands, right, of essentially excrement. How dare Gwen? Gwen, you know that emote gives me nightmares, Gwen. Because it looks like the character from Doctor Who, and in the first Doctor Who episode of the modern era, that is like the skin character who needs to be sprayed. And Moo intensely thinks it's funny. The bubbles might go on. Dang it, both of y'all! Alright, I love you, Gwen. Love you, Gwen Olympic. So, Astro, these caves are in New Zealand. You can go into them, and there actually is apparently a very vibrant tourist industry there. And you can go in and actually... Rose, tell me that I'm not wrong. Does it not, that emote not remind you of that Moisturize Me scene from Doctor Who? And tell me that was not at least the slightest bit unsettling. But Astro, in these caves, you actually see this falling down.
What drink?
These strands. And again, they're emitted by these glowworms, and it attracts predators. Weirdly enough, Astro, the adult females are what are called larvimorphs. So larvimorphs means that they're very similar in appearance to the larval stage, as well as the adult stage females. But the males undergo a much more commonplace metamorphosis, where those adult males are not only reproductively mature, but they have wings, and they look like your regular old fungus gnat. Instead, the females here look very much like the larval stage, but with some legs and reproductively mature organs. It's fascinating, I think, that something like that exists. And yeah, we were just talking, like, again, here is the glow component, the strands that are emitted. Interesting. Also, I think fascinating, Astro, is that at the end of the night, if they will actually eat back these strands and reuse them, which makes sense from like an energy efficiency measure, but it's just really cool when an organism does something that makes sense, right? Because normally you're like obviously it's evolving to do this because it's energetically costly to produce these strands, and the recycling of energy components is going to make it more energy efficient, which increases survival. But it also, when just like the logic works out with it, just shows the beauty of evolution, I think.
Look up. What do you see? Orion, the Seven Sisters, the Milky Way.
We have Professor Canuck here, who can confirm whether or not there are star constellations inside. We're looking at these constellations up here.
Look again. You're not outside. And these aren't stars. They're alive. These are glowworms, the spectacular larvae of a rather unspectacular gnat called Arachnocampa luminosa.
Let me actually pull back the image. They showed this adult here is a male adult that they're showing. I don't know why we haven't seen anything in terms of like people really hitting hard on that in the videos. Probably because it's just a detail that I'm really excited about. But again, that's what the male looks like because it's winged. You wouldn't have a winged female.
Luminosa. Deep inside the Waitomo Caves on New Zealand's North Island, these
Claire had a question earlier on which island it was, so it is on the North Island. Thank you for that deep look video. Gracie Cat, I see you, Gracie Cat. I love your face. Gracie Cat, you're amazing, you're stunning, you're breathtaking, you're a legendary human. The moderator extraordinaire, Gracie Cat. We love you, Gracie Cat. Listen, Gwen, I know how much you hate the gnats. Gwen, with all the amber that we look at and you see those gnats in there, I know that you're just like, I'm over it. I don't need to see this anymore. I'm done with it. You're right, Gwen. You're right. Apologize, Gwen.
Bioluminescent worms hang from the ceiling in hammocks of their own silk. They're huge.
So just think about it. This is the other thing that I would love to know is how the physics of this works. And I don't really understand physics, but I think it would still be a neat question to study. Is that they hang themselves from the ceiling. So they utilize their silk to hang themselves, and then from that they hang further silk beads. It's just an amazingly elegant and beautiful system. I know, Gwen, but I mean, like, I know you don't hate them, but it's one of those, Gwen, it's like like, come on cockroach, or come on other animal, and all of a sudden we get, oh, it's another gnat. Oh, it's another gnat. It's another gnat. Oh, it's a common fly. And then occasionally we get something very crazy, Gwen. But, you know. I do know, like, these grab bags of the amber we get, they are... The dealer presumably looks through them. If there is anything super wild in there, it would be removed.
Colonies turn these dark recesses into a natural planetarium. You've heard of mimicry in nature. This is more like astromimicry.
Astromimicry, Astro-Canuck, coincidence? I think not. They are presumably... Hi, Kixie! Call me Kixie, welcome on in. Call me Kixie. How you doing, Kixie? Welcome on in. How you doing, Kixie? They're presumably not mimicking the night sky in terms of particular constellations or anything like that. That's far too complex. However, they are presumably mimicking night because they're trying to capture insects that utilize the night sky for directionality. Similar ways to how moths use the moon to navigate throughout the night, other insects can use other light sources like the moon and the stars. And that might be one of the ways and reasons why, you know, they're mimicking in this way. Kixie, these are glowworms. They release a silk-like component, and then they bioluminesce, and they make the strands light up, and it's to attract prey. And this is 100% real, Kixie. This is not just a scene from Avatar, although it very much feels like it. Here's another image, Kixie. We're looking a little bit of a walkthrough of the caves, and it is just really, really beautiful, and just surprising that such a thing like this exists, right? But it's actually a tourist attraction too, Kixie. So it's New Zealand and Australia. There's caves in New Zealand that we've been looking at, and there's also forests in Australia. So there was one suggestion in one of the videos we looked at where they're more likely to be in less, like, heavily dense wooded areas or caves because there's not a lot of wind, and maybe the wind would twirl together the strands and prevent their hunting behavior from being efficient. There's one hypothesis to maybe why you find them in these kinds of areas. But it's quite beautiful. Kixie, I hope you're doing well. Welcome the heck in.
fireflies generate light the same way, with chemicals, to find mates. But these worms use their light to hunt. See the delicate threads hanging around each worm? The light is the bait. These threads are the snares. The worm drops them bit by bit, like a string of Mardi Gras beads. Together.
And it doesn't show you in this video, but they do have pretty intimidating mandibles. But yeah, each one of these strands, they're doing the exact same thing every night, Kixie, and then they eat up the strands when they're done in order to recycle the energy.
They form glittering chandeliers. For moths fluttering through the dark cave, it's dazzling. Moths aren't drawn to light like you might think. Rather, they navigate by it. They use the moon and stars like a compass to fly in a straight line. But with imposter stars all around, they become disoriented and fly into the light. That's when the worm springs its trap. Caught in the slimy threads, the moth quickly becomes exhausted.
You're not wrong, Kixie. It does kind of feel like that one kid sucking up his spit, like hanging over and doing that. Yeah, it's slightly terrifying, but at the same time, that's a very apt description of it. Yeah.
And the worm reels in its catch.
And now it's sucking up the strand.
Even a daytime flyer, like this mayfly, can get lost in the cave. It struggles to escape, but only coats itself in more goo. Slime seeps into its breathing holes.
So the breathing holes are called the sphericals. Remember, the insects breathe through their exoskeleton, not through a mouthpiece. And so if you actually cover up an insect in this kind of gooey liquid and leave its head exposed, it's not going to matter. It's going to suffocate. Same way if you're painting insects, like when we had to mark ants with a piece of paint to track them, if you cover too much of the body with paint, they'll also suffocate. So that's why she's saying that having the spit is actually going to be a negative in terms of their physical fitness. After drinking glows, yes, Kith, you're not wrong. Kith is bringing it back to where it counts, chat. So Kixie, the way it eats the bug, those mandibles, they don't eat it like, but rather they bore into the insect, and then they drink the insect blood or hemolymph up along with the fat body. And the fat body is that adipose tissue, so like the fat cells equivalent that like we have, is the exact same idea of it, and it just has a lot of extra nutritional content, which is why they end up eating it the way they do.
And it's still alive.
So here you can see it. Kixie, it's on the worm, or the worm is on the mayfly and it's trying to bore into it. And I don't know, Kixie, I don't know if it's even known. If you were to put, actually, I don't know if it's known for sure, but I would hypothesize if you put a dead insect into the web, they would probably ignore it because they need the vibrational cue to trigger the hunting behavior, and they might be like some of our ants that only eat live prey and they actually avoid dead prey because there's something different about the flavor profile. Like for the ants, they'll sting the prey, immobilize them, but what they end up doing is they'll only eat the hemolymph for the insect from living insects and not for anything that's already expired. If it's already died, they actually like take it to the trash pile and ignore it. My bet is something similar on that front. Oh yeah, Nelf, I think there's a whole world of vibrational cues that aren't explored sufficiently. Yeah. Hope you'll be like opening up a smoothie can and drinking it. A little bit like that. Yeah. Which is it's another good description, Kix.
When the worm begins to feed. Scientists have noticed that these glowworm colonies brighten and dim on 24-hour cycles. In other words, they have a circadian rhythm.
So, Kixie, Actually, I would suggest that a straw is like your proboscis, that long, like narrow, that's a straw-like structure that a mosquito would have, for example. Unfortunately, Kixie, the glowworms don't have one of those, but that would be an extra lovely to be having. Wolf being triggered by running. Yep, that's also a similar approach, Nelf. Yeah, I again imagine that without the extra wiggling, it just wouldn't trigger that behavior. Like a caprice. Exactly, Kixie. Then you have the little straw. Pew! Kixie! Also, Kixie, I saw your new artwork today. It looked lovely on your Twitter. It's very lovely, Kixie.
Which is odd for a worm that lives its whole life half a mile deep in a cave. It's never experienced day or night. What's more, each colony in the cave follows its own rhythm. They're offset, almost like they're taking turns feeding on the moths.
And chat, like this has been proven. You can see that they're offsetting when they're pulsing light, but why that is that due to some kind of external signaling that lets them know like this is a good time to pulse, and different colonies, like there's a genetic basis for it? Is it something, again, environmental that's coming in? Is there communication between these? It's not known what's triggering that. But it is really cool.
The result? The endless starry night inside the Waitomo caves. A bright, glittering mantle cloaking a much darker purpose. Hi, it's Amy. If you like stuff that glows, go toward the light. We have some other stories you might like.
Really love it. Yeah, Kixie, that art piece was absolutely beautiful. It turned out really, really nicely. And I didn't realize the manga connection, only because like Lita's much more the manga gal. I don't know much about it, but it looked beautiful. Evolution works to create the magical nature is fascinating. Absolutely, Nelf. Which, by the way, Nelf, that's a great segue. The other half of that topic tonight of talking about the glowworm is other bioluminescence, and I thought it might be fun to just delve a little bit into bioluminescence, some example animals that bioluminesce, and then also thinking about why they primarily bioluminesce in the deep sea. Why don't we have more land animals that bioluminesce? Some of those components. A smidge of a rabbit hole. A planned rabbit hole, Nelf. Them arts and ghosts, no you. No you. No you. No you. It's a deep cut. No, Kixie, listen. Kithfish down below you, Kixie, in the chat, also knows about these mangas and these animes and these fancy pants things. So Kith probably knows exactly what you're talking about. Lita might know too. I have no idea beyond like, oh, that's cool art. Which is, that's pleased to be able to say that, Kixie. So this one, I thought it would just be a fun video of, I mean, this is a curated list by someone else on the internet, but like the thinking of interesting bioluminescing animals and other ones that have unique glows. And I thought that would be a fun one to just start off with, like, let's see some of these glowing animals.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 animals that glow in the dark.
They also have glowworms on the menu, so I was like, okay, this video must be kind of a choice.
For this list, we'll be taking a look at animals of all kinds that have the ability to glow in the dark. Number 10, Cookie Cutter Shark. Don't be fooled by this deep sea dweller's funny name. It'd be no laughing matter if you came across one. The cookie cutter shark feeds by taking large bites out of its prey and then disappearing into the abyss. But we can still trace it, as the shark's underside produces a bright green glow that functions as a defense mechanism called counter-illumination. The glow blends in with the light from the surface, obscuring the shark's body from underneath and hiding it from its predators. Also called the cigar shark, its bioluminescence is so strong that it can continue to glow green hours after being taken out of the water. Number 9, Crystal.
Right, Nelf? Right? And it's a really cool hunting strategy as well. So I think all of it is quite cool.
Jelly. Crystal jelly, or Equoria victoria, are some of the most unique creatures on Earth. These jellyfish produce equorin and green fluorescent protein, or GFP.
GFP, remember, is the molecule used in a lot of research to make things artificially glow. You can mark particular structures in an organism, like the neurons, the actin, the like muscle cells, the nuclei, the DNA, whatever your imagination really desires. That green fluorescent protein was isolated, and you can put into a variety of animals, plants, you name it. So it's very much thanks to the jellyfish that we're able to do something like that.
Which are the two proteins that help create bioluminescence. So it goes without saying that glowing in the dark is kind of their thing. These proteins are actually a pretty big deal, so much so that the team that discovered them was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry back in 2008.
It was a world-changing discovery, so I'm glad they got that. Comb jellies that are glowing now. Oh, that's great night kayaking. Nelf, are comb jellies, do they sting? Or are they like the cannonball jellies where you can get past them and not actually like have anything to do with? Like if you touch them, they don't sting. Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Green fluorescent protein has proven particularly helpful to biologists, who now use it as a reporter gene for studying the health and processes in the cells of various animals, including humans. Number 8. Sea sapphire. These tiny copepods shine with the help of microscopic crystal plates beneath their skin. The crystals catch and reflect light, producing an array of different colors, although it's a skill that only sometimes exists in males of the species. Females are completely translucent all of the time, and when the males aren't showing off their crystals, they're translucent as well.
Y'all, it is so cool, right? That's not bioluminescence, that is iridescence, so we're getting into, it's just general glowing animals. But it's still really cool to see something like this, right?
Due to a sea sapphire's size, they don't grow more than a few millimeters. They can be hard to spot, unless of course they congregate en masse close to shore, in which case you're in for a truly spectacular light show. Number 7. Atolla jellyfish. As arguably one of the coolest jellyfish in the ocean, the Atolla comes equipped with a unique security feature. When attacked, it sets off a bioluminescent safety alarm, so it's no wonder its nickname is the alarm jellyfish. This underwater light show isn't meant to dazzle predators into submission, but instead works to attract bigger fish.
It's so cool. It looks like the fish is spitting fire.
That will hopefully scare off whatever's currently attacking. With its deep red body, long menacing tentacles, and bright blue burglar alarm, the Atolla Wyverly is one creature you shouldn't pick a fight with, unless of course you want to risk getting eaten by a great white shark. Number 6. Yellow-coated clusterwink. These sea snails may be small, but what they lack in size, they more than make up for in bioluminescence. The clusterwink, more formally known as Hinea brasiliana, differs from other flashing snails in that its entire shell lights up, whereas others often only emit short, dim flashes from one part of their shell. The result is a striking green light that, again, serves as a defense mechanism. Similar to the Atolla jellyfish, the flashing is meant to attract bigger predators to scare off the smaller ones.
And again, a common theme of these, y'all, have been predation, so them getting a food source, protection from predation, so not being eaten, or some kind of rudimentary communication, whether that be usually mating, but also might be other informational cues beyond mating. So three very simplistic things that are tying it all together.
Regardless of the purpose though, these tiny mollusks demand attention. Number 5. Firefly squid. The sheer color that these sea creatures emit is truly a sight to behold. The body of a firefly squid is coated with tiny photophores, light-producing organs which emit the creature's bioluminescence. Found in the western Pacific Ocean, Firefly squids can use these photophores to create dazzling light shows, and can even coordinate the flashes to go off either in unison or in random patterns. Similar to the cookie-cutter shark, the firefly squid uses its glowing skills for self-defense, employing counter-illumination from above as a form of camouflage against predators lurking deep in the water. Number 4. Glowworm. The often quoted glowworm is actually an umbrella term that encompasses a variety of different insect larvae. The one thing they all have in common is their bioluminescence. These little creatures are often found in wet and humid spaces in caves and forests, and can sometimes populate an area to such a dramatic degree that they completely blanket the walls.
And remember, one thing to keep note of this that I noticed in researching why, in terms of the naming system, there are some places that call fireflies also glowworms, but that is, it seems like that's much more of a misnomer. That's not the standard name for these animals.
The result is a fantastic light display, the like of which often crops up in stories, fairy tales, and films. The fungus gnat glowworm variety, well known in New Zealand and Australia for example, are the architects of stunning natural chandeliers, made up of silk and mucus. It sounds gross, but it looks incredible. Number 3. Anglerfish. If you thought those worms were unsightly, get a glimpse of these guys. Anglerfish are often considered to be some of the ugliest fish in the ocean. The reason mostly stems from their oversized, toothy jaws and the long growth that protrudes from their heads. However, the latter is more than just an anatomical oddity. It's also a lure that works in tandem with the esker, a luminescent organ that uses bacteria at its tip to attract prey. So, despite these things being terrifying to look at, they're actually trying to attract your attention. Thankfully, you'll never encounter one when you're out for a swim, as they reside thousands of feet beneath the surface. Number 2. Dinoflagellates.
Oh, yeah, Gwen, the default closed caption is less than ideal. Even the closed caption that we use, which is the best and highest rated one for these kinds of streams, there's a lot of unfortunate stuff that comes through. But it gives you a chuckle. It gives us a chuckle, Gwen.
These minute creatures skillfully combine many of the characteristics we've already touched upon. They're known for emitting a bluish-green light, although it can sometimes be red, which is used to ward off predators. When they group together, this plankton subgroup can create incredible light shows. And the best place to see them up close is at a bioluminescent bay or lagoon, although locations hosting dinoflagellates are extremely rare.
I believe we've talked about one in Florida, and there's another one on the west side of Puerto Rico that you can swim in. And again, they're just triggered by if you run your hand through the water, it triggers them and they shine like this kind of light.
Going out to see them is naturally a nighttime activity, but one that's well worth getting out of bed for. Before we unveil our top pick, here's some honorable mentions.
Comb jelly is one of my favorites.
Not quite at the end yet, almost there though. Just be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Alright, back to business. Number 1. Firefly. If there's one glow-in-the-dark animal that everyone's heard of, it's the firefly. These tiny winged beetles have been filling mason jars and dazzling onlookers for centuries, particularly during the twilight hours. The light is actually a chemical reaction that occurs in the firefly's abdomen. The results vary depending on what type of firefly you're looking at, but the colors they're best known for are green, yellow, and occasionally a pale shade of red. Also referred to as lightning bugs, fireflies use their blinking lights to attract mating partners.
And remember, we also talked about this past Friday, they not only use it to attract mating partners, but they also use it to attract other species of firefly, which then they might eat. There are some species of firefly called the femme fatale that do not have toxins, and the way they acquire toxins by eating those that do, and they attract them by using those lights.
And seeing as how there are so many of them, it appears to be working. Do you agree with our pick?
So, I think it's a pretty good list. Again, they didn't just do bioluminescence, they did iridescence as well as, like, not just bioluminescent of self-producing, like of the luciferase and luciferin, but they also did like the bacterial use of them as well. So internal and external production too. So I think that's a good segue on delving into why they're primarily
Far below
the bioluminescence in deep seas. Like why do we have them there versus in other parts of the world, which I think is a good way to kind of round out the topic as well. Hello, Hiptacularaptor. How you doing, Hip? Welcome on in, Hip. Hip, I'm going to take a quick BRB and use the restroom. I think that would be a good idea. And then we're going to continue on talking about, why is the ocean the best place to find bioluminescence versus on land? Like, why is that discrepancy between the two areas? So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. I'm just going to use the restroom, and we'll continue. All right, chat, let's learn about why deep sea is the ideal place for some of the most bioluminescing animals that we find.
below the ocean's surface, life has adapted to a world of darkness.
There is the anglerfish again. P. Sherman, 42 Wild Away, Sydney! Grimly, I don't forget that. Grimly, I saw that movie so many times. That was my little brother's favorite movie, Finding Nemo. And then my sister's favorites were, she was really big into Winnie the Pooh. And so on Grimly, in the old days when we went down to the beach, my dad strapped a TV in the back seat between the two car seats, and we watched VHSs of Winnie the Pooh on loop for hours, and then when Adam was born, of Finding Nemo. Hello, Lady Lara Croft. How you doing, Lady Lara Croft? Lady Lara Croft, the topics tonight are including, but not limited to, bioluminescence and glowworms that we're talking about tonight. So we're doving into glowworms, how they bioluminesce, but also just some of their really beautiful features and their identification of different what they use their glow for. Hello, Galacticat chat. There is a legendary artist here in the chat, the lovely and amazing Galacticat. Please go follow Galacticat. Super, super talented. I met her at TwitchCon. I hang out in her streams all the time. Please go follow the one, the only legendary Galacticat, ma'am. How are you doing? Join the Galactiverse, folks. Pokemon art, science art, Lord of the Rings. There's a bunch of... I don't know what the woman can't do. And also join her Ko-fi. Join her Ko-fi chat for monthly Galacticat art. You're cold. What's going on, Galacticat? What's going on? Freshie, hello, Freshie. How you doing, Freshie? Welcome in, Freshie. How you doing, Freshie? How you doing, Fresh? Why are you cold, Galacticat? Galacticat, we have a bunch of smoke. There are fires in above us in Canada, and the smoke has been blowing down southern. So we're in New Jersey, and we the smoke level is from 1 to the air quality is ranked from 1 to 500, and we had 460 last night in terms of poor air quality, and it went down to the 300s today. Anything above 150 is considered dangerous, and so we haven't been able to even go outside. The little one has been very fussy about not being able to go outside, which is fair because she likes being able to go outside, but we just haven't been. Lots of smoke here too, but no danger of fires yet. Good. Stay safe, Freshie. Stay safe. In theory, Galacticat, tomorrow is going to be a little bit better, but we'll see what actually comes up tomorrow. But I'm hoping that we'll have a nicer one tomorrow. Maryland Zoo says stay inside, zoo closed. Oh yeah, that's right. Lady Lara Croft, I think there were a couple of zoos that I saw on their Facebook. They announced that there was going to be closing. I can't remember, Lady Lara Croft, all the different zoos, but on Facebook again, I saw several that had closed their doors because of it, to protect the animals, which I was glad that they did that. but it was still just kind of on the shocking side to see something like that, you know. But yeah, so Lady Lara Croft, Fresh Eat, welcome on in. Galactic Cat, we're talking about bioluminescence right now, and connecting it to the glowworms, which is our main topic. But now we're rabbit holing into the question of why bioluminescence is most likely to exist in the depths of the ocean versus having more on land. Your soccer team couldn't play last night. Is it? Wait, Nelf, is it NYCFC? Or is it a different Nelf? Nelf, tell me which team it is. Also, did anyone see that Lionel Messi has come to the United States to play soccer, Major League Soccer? My goodness, that was a shocking announcement. I did not really know what to make of it. Is why there's so many bioluminescent animals underwater and at deep sea levels. That's what we're getting into now tonight. Outlaw, listen, your wedding photos, Cricket posted them on Twitter, were beautiful. I love the background scenery of them. Like, Outlaw, it looked like out of a scene from a movie. Like, that's how perfect that background was. It was absolutely stunning. Thank you all so much for sharing it. Thank you. No, listen, Outlaw, it is my absolute pleasure. It is the least I can do. Your wife is a cornerstone of so many communities, the least of which her page is right now pinned to the page. If those of you who are in here, if you don't know Cricket, she's on the path to that 1,000 follower mark. She's near there. She's 8 followers left to go. If y'all wouldn't mind dropping her that follow, getting her to 1,000, we'd very much appreciate it. She's so freaking close that we can taste it. And I want her to hit 1,000 so that she has to do her 24-hour stream, because that, number one, was extremely painful when we did it, but a worthwhile experience. And number two is I want her to be happy and successful at whatever she wants to be at. So please consider following our lovely friend Cricket. All right, let's get back to some bioluminescence. And why is it mostly in the ocean?
Strange creatures haunt the crushing depths. Some of them completely blind, others with eyes that point upwards to help them avoid predators attacking from higher levels. Others still have eyes so enormous, you begin to wonder, if it's so dark at these depths, what are these eyes designed to see? No sunlight penetrates the deep water of the ocean, but this ecosystem is by no means devoid of light. It instead shines with one of the most widespread adaptations in the ocean, bioluminescence. Many creatures have evolved the ability to glow in the dark, either by harnessing bioluminescent bacteria or initiating a chemical reaction within their own bodies. These unique adaptations have intrigued scientists for decades, but more recently, researchers have realized bioluminescence isn't limited to the darkest parts of the ocean. In fact, the proportion of animals that glow is similar at all levels of the ocean, from the surface down to the sea floor.
Which is surprising, right? Because you'd assume that it's only because we usually hear about the depths of depths, right? Rather than there's being a gradient, but it seems like it's much more common again than what we originally hypothesized. Thank you, Outlaw. Have a good one, Outlaw. Have a good, I do have to stop, Outlaw, because I say goodbye. And hello, Outlaw. Have a good one, Outlaw. Thank you for coming by. Have your face, Outlaw.
Bioluminescence is less a special ability than a widespread adaptation in the sea. More than 75% of organisms in the ocean can produce their own light, from the smallest bacteria all the way up to large sharks. Fishes and rays have evolved this feature at least 29 different times, making it an impressive example of convergent evolution. And if you consider that 71% of the Earth's surface is water, that means bioluminescence is actually one of the most widespread traits to have ever evolved. But that also raises the question, why is bioluminescence so common in the ocean and so rare on land? The only terrestrial organisms with the ability to produce their own light are a few species of fungi, arthropods like fireflies, and a handful of larvae like glowworms.
Right, that's an interesting question. If we've talked about how successful it is to be bioluminescent, and we talked about avoiding predation, helping eat or communication, why is it so not present on land and it's so present in the water? Galacticat, listen. You are an artist extraordinaire, ma'am. I bet you can make something that looks bioluminescent far more powerful. And Tiffany Green Eyes, you are a harbinger of bioluminescence. I don't know if that makes you personally bioluminescent, but everything you create is beautiful and stunning and bioluminescent-y. Yes, Galacticat, if you don't know Tiffany Green Eyes, she is another legendary artist friend of our community. She does psychedelic art, a lot of glow-in-the-dark stuff, so if you shine UV light on her art, it's totally different color palette than what you see with your naked eye. And it is... So you essentially get two art pieces in one. And they're both very thoughtfully done out. Like, in both fields of light, whether it be UV or bright light, it's a really good art piece, and they're very different depending on the light of it. And she's an absolute legend. Absolute legend is Tiffany Green Eyes.
And while the ocean is certainly a dark place, our terrestrial world is bathed in darkness half the time too. If bioluminescence isn't in fact limited to the pitch-black depths of the ocean, why does it seem to be constrained to barely exist on land? What is it about the world of water that makes it so much more suited to bioluminescence? When 18th and 19th century travelers wrote about glowing water on the ocean, their accounts were dismissed as fantasy. Jules Verne described a milky light coming from the ocean in his popular novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But it wasn't until the 21st century that we were able to understand that the phenomenon of glowing really can't...
Is the salt the glowing? Those are dinoflagellates. So those are living single-celled organisms that trigger bioluminescence when they undergo movement. So if you disturb them with your hand going through the water, that triggers them to light up. It's quite remarkable. Right, Lady Lara Croft? Arg indeed. Arg indeed. The piracy, as it were. Oh, no salt that facilitates being bioluminescent. What do you mean? Oh, the answer! I see, Tiffany. I am so sorry. I thought you meant that particular chemical reaction. Maybe, Tiffany.
Can illuminate huge patches of the ocean. Today, we know that bioluminescence has emerged independently more than 94 times within hundreds of species. Organisms that use bioluminescence have two options for producing their own light. They can use intrinsic bioluminescence, in which they mix chemicals in their own bodies to produce photons of various colors and intensities.
And what's cool is that it doesn't give off heat. So because they're doing internal chemical reactions, or if there is any heat given off, it's a negligible amount of heat. Most of it is just gives off wavelengths of light in the visible spectrum, and that's why it's not increasing in heat.
Or they can use symbiotic bioluminescence, which requires cultivating colonies of glowing bacteria in specialized organs. The chemical process involves a molecule called luciferin that generates light when mixed with oxygen and a luciferase enzyme.
It's the same chemical reaction that we have in the fireflies that we talked about and in the glowworms that we talked about too.
Luciferin and luciferase are generic catch-all terms in reality. There are many different molecules that can be combined to catalyze this light-emitting reaction. This process likely originated with bacteria, and some researchers hypothesize it's incredibly ancient. The first bioluminescence may have appeared between 2 billion and 500 million years ago. However, the two different types of bioluminescence that exist today have very different evolutionary histories. Researchers found that intrinsic bioluminescence only evolved 8 times in fishes, but that symbiotic bioluminescence has happened at least 17 times, always with the same family of bacteria. On land, the trait seems to have taken longer to appear. A fossilized ancestor of fireflies from 100 million years ago was discovered to have a light-producing organ, suggesting that this has long been an adaptation among that group, and it probably originated as a form of defense to warn off predators.
Chemical that makes up fireflies how they came up with glow sticks. So glow sticks actually in PIMCAT are a combination of other chemicals. It does not have luciferin or luciferase inside that chemical reaction. It's just a bunch of other chemicals thrown together. We actually looked it up earlier tonight at PIMCAT. Turns out they are non-toxic, but it is a very, very different reaction. Another reason why it's different is because the luciferin and luciferase and oxygen are recyclable, so that these animals don't run out of the ability to glow, versus your glow stick depletes when all the chemicals have been depleted. It's done. So those are very, very different. Those two discoveries aren't connected. However, in the lab, we use luciferin and luciferase as an enzymatic measure to figure out how much an enzyme has been acting. You can measure that based on the amount of light that a reaction gives off. So if more light is given off in the reaction, the chemical reaction is moving faster. And there's actually plates that you can put in, 96 by 96 well plates, and you can load them up with different reactions, put them in a machine that reads the fluorescence or the light intensity, and you can figure out which tube of your 96 by 96 has the highest or most efficient chemical reaction, just based off the light that's given off. The firefly data has been primarily used in research identification. Yeah. Do only male fireflies? No, the females do too, PIMCAT. In fact, the males, so the ones that you're running around catching are males, most likely. The males fly above the grasses. The females, if you look down, PIMCAT, the females are larger and they're on the blades of grass. They have a smaller light organ, but they flash back to the males to show that they're interested. And so then the males will get closer, the female flashes again, and then the males will mate. So they both have the light sensing organ. It's just the males light much more than the than the females do. So the light making organ is bigger, and it's more pronounced, and it's a more important part of their behavior. There is also PIMCAT another species of firefly called the femme fatale. Those are females that are non-toxic. Most fireflies have some level of toxicity to them. What those females do is they mimic females of a different species in their light production. So the way the species can only tell each other apart, PIMCAT, is that they flash light at different levels, different intensities, different rates. The femme fatale will mimic a different species, and they'll trick a male of that other species to come to them, and then they eat them. And when they eat them, they acquire their toxicity. Hence the name femme fatale, or the vampire firefly, which is really, really cool. Glow sticks have the rocks. I don't know, Tiffany. I know that they don't have luciferase or luciferin in them. I trust your judgment, though, on that, because you are the queen of, psychedelic art.
Another group of researchers have suggested that other bioluminescent terrestrial insects evolved from a single ancestor that
Some bioluminescence.
around the time that dinosaurs went extinct and mammals took over. But that doesn't explain fungi, since they belong to a whole other branch on the tree of life. Researchers analyzed the genome of living fungi to trace the roots of glowing mushrooms back to 160 million years ago. They theorized that this bioluminescent ability evolved from one common ancestor, that then was either lost, retained, or regained across time and many different species.
Which is different from the bioluminescence that was supposedly evolved from multiple different species from the ocean. Gonna lurk, Garish, thank you for the raid! And thank you for the lurk, and please wish your mom a happy birthday. Garish, if your mom is around, we'd love to play her the birthday song. If not, whenever you bring her around next time, we'll do a makeup and we'll play her the birthday song next time that she comes by. So I want to make sure that when we have a birthday here, we go all out. Except if it's mine. I like to not... I did play the birthday song for myself this week, but only because Chad asked for it, and I did not go wild for it. I did go wild because we had Optic Nerve's birthday the same day, so I went crazy for his birthday, but, you know. Going nuts.
It's possible that the effect makes spores more attractive to insects who might spread them. But bioluminescence might also be a byproduct of other chemical reactions, which would explain why it's disappeared multiple times through the evolutionary history of fungi. If it was serving no secondary purpose, it wouldn't need to be retained. But the fact that bioluminescence has evolved separately on land and has been retained in several species means that it is a useful land-based adaptation. So why is it still so rare? What about the ocean makes bioluminescence so ubiquitous?
Meaning that it's spread throughout the ocean, animals, and it's not just the lowest depths, but through many depths of the ocean. It's a great question.
Living in the ocean is not at all like living on land. The most obvious difference between marine and terrestrial environments is the medium.
It could be coevolution indeed, Nelf. It could be many different factors. The video, I like it because it does do a pretty good job of analyzing why it might be.
Water versus air. Both present vastly different challenges and opportunities to life forms who live in them. But a less obvious difference is the fact that in most of the ocean, there's nowhere to hide. Rodents and other small animals on land have trees, shrubs, rocks, and burrows that help them stay safe from predators. Meanwhile, for most aquatic life, there's nothing in the environment to keep them safe. Reef systems are the exception rather than the rule. They only occur in about 1% of the ocean, and only some species live on the ocean's floor. Nearly everywhere else in the ocean is an open expanse. That means many species have had to find other ways of keeping themselves safe from predators, and as unexpected as it might be, light is one of the best methods. Jellyfish and siphonophores are some of the best examples of creatures that use light to evade capture. Nearly all of them have some form of bioluminescence. Comb jellies flash brightly to startle predators, while siphonophores can produce a constellation of small lights, mimicking plankton to confuse predators. Some jellies even release a glowing slime that sticks to their predator, a strategy also employed by tiny crustaceans called ostracods, or sea fireflies. When fish...
Which the ostracods, y'all, we find a bunch of those in the pond water that we look at on Mondays. These are just a different species, obviously, because these are able to do the bioluminescence versus the ones that we look at are not able to. Sargassum sea is critical for many juvenile species because of the hiding habitat. Exactly, now. And there's so many, like she was talking about, areas that don't have that ability.
Try to swallow them, they release one of the brightest lights in the ocean, momentarily blinding the fish and smearing it with light. By illuminating themselves or their predator, these organisms might also be calling over an even larger predator, the ones who might eat the smaller organisms' would-be predator.
Abra, every Monday we look at pond water. We also look at 30 million year old amber with insects. We don't know what the insects are. We actually identify them together as a stream, what animals are inside that preserved amber. It's always, well, it's usually insects. I don't think we've caught anything else. There's been no mammal, or we haven't had any feathers either. But so we do that identification, and we do the pond water is usually late spring through late fall, because during the winter, the pond that I get to, it just we tried, and there was just so little animal activity in there that it was just no reason to be looking. We could, so there are Nerduino amber pieces that do have mammals. They're just so rare and so scientifically valuable that you won't find them in the wild, or if you do, it's an arm and a leg to buy it. There's also Nerduino reptiles. There's also that in amber. We do have, so Abra, actually, I take that back. The only mammal we've had is we do have woolly mammoth hair. We do have an authentic sample of woolly mammoth hair that we've looked at under the microscope. And that was actually really, really cool. Fortuitous Traveler, you sleep well now. Fortuitous, you sleep well. Thank you for hanging with us, Fortuitous Traveler. So do people selling amber just sell it not knowing what's in it? It depends, Nerduino. If you see a piece with like a lizard in it, and it's at an affordable price, my bet is that someone is taking advantage of you, and that they know very well what's in it and they're stealing. Because actually, Nerduino, there are a fair number of fakes out there. That it's just because the way you can tell a real piece from a fake piece is if you put it under UV light. If it shines, it's that amber resin. If it doesn't, it's glass. And that actually is a thing. So that's why you should only buy from reputable people. If you then look on something like, hi Nerduino, or Proton Fake, welcome in. If you look at something like on eBay, usually those Nerduino, so they are illegal because you're smuggling them out from countries that the people don't have the proper import-export licenses. But on top of that, if you look at the prices, you're probably talking like $800 a piece. And those are just for like rare animals and not necessarily like very rare. I've seen one on eBay for like over $1,000 for part of a lizard, and the sample itself, it's not like it's the most beautiful sample ever, Nerduino. It has other stuff in there as well, so there's some dirt and other buildup, but it's still beautiful and but it's scientifically valuable, and honestly it shouldn't be sold on the black market that is eBay. It should be in a lab somewhere being studied. So that's my take on it. A crystal wedding instead of a diamond. Why, Tiffany? Because of the price? Or because of the smuggling? Either one, I would totally understand. The conflict diamonds, right, of like where the background is that they're coming from are also kind of like, you know, they can be a little bit shady, right? Yeah, Nerduino, if you want... Oh, ethical, yeah. Actually, Tiffany, there is a... Lita had that same issue with jewelry. And there is a jewelry store called Na Haku. It is a Hawaiian jewelry store. And she researched the heck out of it. And that is the only place that I'm allowed to buy her jewelry from. Because everything there is ethically sourced and also not heat treated and not fake. So that, Tiffany, I am 100% an understanding of. Yeah, so I totally get it. But yeah, Nerduino, go on to eBay and if you just type in amber, you'll see hilariously cheap. Oh, and actually Etsy too, of all places, Nerduino. Hilariously cheap things that if you look, you're like, there's no way this is real. And then when you see the real ones, you're like, oof, that's definitely real. And yeah, there's a lot of bits of those. Ring looks cool. It is Miss Agate. It has those. Oh, that's very cool, Tiffany. Very cool. I like the lines in there. A video of a guy who sold a piece of amber without knowing it had dino feathers. He realized the fortune, now he charges a lot. Yeah. And those probably shouldn't be sold, Tiffany. I believe, or sorry, Gwen, I think those are supposed to be, if it's from the Myanmar region of China, which is most of those are from, they need to be given to the government or a lab. Like, that's the legalese behind it. Orange glass in your backyard. I'll be back in a bit. Nerduino is selling a lot on eBay now. All of a sudden, he's an eBay streamer. But those are just some things to consider when thinking about buying these ancient samples. Not just amber, but you can buy fossils online too, and just making sure they're actually ethically sourced, and that there's not anything really shady happening on there. We make sure we have our supplier that we get has all import-export licenses. It's also from the Dominican Republic and not the Myanmar region of China. Although he's able to get some Cretaceous pieces of amber, but he has all the permitting for it. So that's why we're able to do that. Or that's why we're actually willing to do something like that as well. On the black market, it's on YouTube. Gotcha, Gwen. Gwen, the worst black market though is Instagram. On Instagram, there is a massive black market for ants. Ants are USDA regulated animals. They're also import-export licenses for a ton of different countries. And on Instagram, there are a bunch of salespeople who sell ants and will send you ants in unmarked boxes because it's such a big hobby. It's quite fascinating. Those are your bottles, your wine bottles. Gwendolyn P, that Nerduino doesn't have that. Jern!
Ahoy there, feckin' scientists!
Sleep well, Irish John. Guys, make sure to go follow Irish John. He is going on vacation. Have a lovely 2-week vacation, John. I will miss you so hard When you come back, I will give you a giant hug. I realize that we're not going to be in the same room when you come back, but I'm going to hug the crap out of my computer. And I'm just going to watch Rise of Piracy every day until you come back, which is not unlike when you are here, but it's fine. Sleep well, John. Have a great vacation. And I love your face. Thank you for everything you do for this whole community. Have a cup of Maxwell coffee tomorrow, Gwen.
Consider dinoflagellates, those single-celled plankton.
Jaren's going on a 2-week vacation, Gwen, so I'm going to be sad for 2 weeks.
That can produce such wonderfully glowing waves. There are many species of dinoflagellates, and those that are capable of bioluminescence are less likely to be eaten. This could be because their bright flashes act like a burglar alarm, essentially announcing to the nearby ocean dwellers, "Hey, this crustacean is trying to eat me. You want to come eat him?" The last way swimmers use light as a source of defense sounds the most counterintuitive. Light as camouflage. The deeper you go in the ocean, the less light filters down through all that water. Between 200 meters and 1,000 meters lies the mesopelagic, also known as the twilight zone. Because a certain amount of light does come from above, a fish swimming above a predator would have its dark silhouette outlined against the light. To keep this from happening, they use counter-illumination. Little spots of light on their underside break up their silhouette, confusing potential predators. It's such a well-honed trick that creatures like the Hawaiian bobtail squid can change the amount of light it emits depending on the time of day, like its own glowing circadian rhythm. The story on land is a little more complicated, since lighting up in the darkness is more likely to draw attention to you than to obscure your outline. But this glow can still be a defensive strategy for some organisms, by advertising that they are poisonous. It's like a nighttime version of the poison dart frog's vibrant skin color.
And that now is why the femme fatales drink the hemolymph for the blood of the males. And so otherwise they look very similar, it's just then they actually have the toxicity behind it. Yeah, nature is terrifying. I don't have diamond on my ring either. I said I have plain platinum and marble instead. Marble, very cool, Proton. I have platinum, but nothing else on there. There was, Proton, one place we looked at had engravings on it, and I apparently asked them. they were apparently showing me the rings that I was supposed to pick from, and I was like, "Oh, these are very nice. Where are the men's rings?" They're like, "Sort of. These are the men's rings." And I was like, "Oh, all right, honey. I think we need to go." And actually, it was Lita's favorite jewelry place, and I totally botched that one. So.
This strategy is used by some worms as well as millipedes. But of course, it's not only prey who are using light to keep themselves alive. Predators have many of their own tricks to lure in their meals. Members of the anglerfish family might be the best known deep-sea dwellers to entrance their prey with glowing lures. But the strategy also seems to be used by giant squid, who have been observed flashing bright lights while hunting, either as a way of stunning their prey or getting them to come closer. And this hunting technique is something shared among many of the bioluminescent insects that glow on land. Consider the glowworms that have enchanted people for centuries in Australia and New Zealand. These cave dwellers fill the ceilings of their abodes with starry blue constellations. But that light is actually a creepy hunting strategy. The worms spin dripping nets of glowing spit.
And these are what we were talking about today, the glowworms. That was our big topic. This is one of our subtopics. We just talking a little bit more about bioluminescence and why it occurs and how it occurs.
Into which other insects fly. The larvae of click beetles operate very similarly, hiding in...
So just a heads up, if you missed our talk on glowworms, but you're interested in learning more about them, it will be up on our YouTube page in about a week's time. But we trim out the intro, outros, and the raids, so you just get the straight science. So make sure to check out that YouTube page as well.
Holes and emitting a soft yellow-green glow. Whenever insects approach to investigate, the beetle's pincers snap shut around its meal. Just like in the sea, organisms on land have been able to turn bioluminescence to their advantage when it comes to hunting. But perhaps the most mysterious use of bioluminescence is light for mating and communication. Scientists recently discovered that the Humboldt squid, a voracious hunter, uses a number of different light patterns depending on the context it's in.
Similar actually to the different species of firefly, different light patterns and intensities, all because of how they're communicating between them. Rocks that glow are Hackmanites. Thank you, Tiffany. They can create them synthetically, so they just do that now. Cool. Makes sense if you can do it synthetically. It's probably a lot cheaper, right, than going out and getting the rocks, and you'll probably eventually run out too, which would be unfortunate.
These changes might reflect messages that they're communicating to other squid, whether it's dominance displays or...
And as we talked about earlier, presumably the communication evolves after, so these were probably some kind of warning signals beforehand, and then they evolved over time to be something involved in communication.
Reclaiming certain prey. And then there's also the case of lanternfishes, which include more than 250 species swimming around the mesopelagic. In addition to having lights on their stomachs for camouflage purposes, they also have glowing spots on the sides of their heads. Researchers have hypothesized that different species have subtly different glowing signals they use to find mates. If it's a strategy that sounds familiar, it might be because so many of us have watched lightning bugs dance through the darkness on summer nights. These flying beetles also use bioluminescence for mating purposes.
Hello, Coffee Rocks! How you doing, Coffee Rocks? Welcome on in, Coffee Rocks. Coffee, we're talking bioluminescence tonight, as well as our big focus was on glowworms earlier, which are... Coffee, let me just show you this cave. That cave right there, those glowing strands are emitted from the worms, and they're emitting them this bioluminescent glow as well, and those strands attract potential prey that gets stuck in them, and then they're eaten on it, which is quite amazing. Hi, Getty. A little bit, Getty. How you doing, Getty? Very cool, Proton. Proton, feel free to drop that in the Discord as well if you've been making those in our art section. I think people would very much enjoy seeing stuff like that. Oh, that's not the video. Here we go.
With different species flashing at different intervals to attract mates. But still, light-up displays like firefly dances are the exception, not the rule, for life on land. Despite its clear utility for some creatures, researchers think that it might be harder for terrestrial life to develop bioluminescence because the chemicals involved can be quite toxic and might be harder to cleanse away when the creatures aren't always swimming through water. But
So this is now one big hypothesis as to why bioluminescence is primarily in the water, not on the land. It's a side effect toxicity and how to be able to clear it out. Awesome. I'm glad you like it, Coffee Rocks. I hope you've had a great week, Coffee.
This toxicity is unlikely to be the full story as to why bioluminescence isn't more common on land, since bioluminescence is also basically non-existent in fresh water, where toxicity could be removed as well as in the ocean. The answer perhaps has to do with something simpler: time. Life hasn't existed on land and in fresh water as long as it has in the ocean. And evolution is a slow process. Perhaps it's not that land-based organisms don't have bioluminescence, it's that they don't have bioluminescence yet. It's clear that we have a lot of work yet to do to understand the past and...
As an alternative, it's possible there's not yet evolutionary pressures on these animals. Coffee!
We can rule the galaxy.
Coffee Rocks! Thank you for the resub, Coffee Rocks with Prime Coffee. You only get one of those, and you use it here. Thank you so much, Coffee Rocks, for that ongoing support. Love your face, Coffee. Love your face, Coffee Rocks. Thank you so very much. Coffee, we actually have a... I don't know if you've seen this new animation yet. We got a new BRB.
I'll be back.
It just makes me chuckle far too much. Thank you again so much, Coffee Rocks. Baby Alona was here earlier tonight too, which was a fun one to have.
Future of bioluminescence. But if we ever make it far enough into the universe to discover life on other planets, scientists say we should be on the lookout for bioluminescence. Because where there's water and air, there's a pretty good chance we'll find lots of glowing life. As millions of tiny, vulnerable fish,
especially because the ones that are going with luciferase and luciferin, the enzyme and the molecule that react with oxygen to produce light, it's just those 3 factors to be able to do it. So again, there needs to be evolutionary pressure for these things to evolve, but the recipe for the light isn't that complicated.
Fish navigate the dark ocean water. So too do millions of tiny, vulnerable humans navigate the abyss of the internet.
Okay. We have one more video we're gonna watch tonight, and that is on they touched on it a little bit, which was the others genus, well actually a whole kingdom, which is fungi. There are also bioluminescent fungi in addition to insects on land and all the sea creatures that we just talked about. They are fungi that also glow. And remember the hypothesis that this evolved once, and the common ancestor of all glowing fungi is from one unique common ancestor, and those that have lost and ones that have lost it along the way, along the evolutionary tree of life. I'm just gonna touch base on this beautiful but mysterious book.
Right now, we're not sure why the fungi bioluminesce. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is figure out why.
Look at that.
So organisms bioluminesce for various reasons, but it's probably all started out from just basic detoxifying processes that happen in the cells. And some of the antioxidants, as they break down, give off light. As these traits evolve, other organisms go on to gain additional functions, like fireflies use their light system for mating and communication between species. A lot of that also happens inside the marine environment. But right now, we're not exactly clear as to why mushrooms do it.
The experiment that I'm performing out in the field is an ecology experiment where we are trying to understand the interaction of the mushrooms with insects. And so to do this, we're using fake acrylic mushrooms that we've produced in the lab.
So this is a cool experiment, right? If you're hypothesizing that there's maybe some kind of biological reason that these mushrooms glow, and maybe it has to do with attraction and interaction with insects, the fact that they can make these fake mushrooms to test the question is quite remarkable.
And putting them out in the field covered in glue. Some of them have an LED light that has about the...
Like, look at the experimental setup that they're doing. I think that's absolutely hilarious. They're hooking up the mushrooms to these little lights to trigger and see, like, what effects that might be having. And it seems like it's very rudimentary and it's very simple. At the same time, I think it very much makes sense. Hi, Tristies! Welcome in, Tristies. Lurking from the back. Appreciate you, guys. Tristies, my favorite band of all time. Favorite band of all time. This is an inorganic mushroom, Tiffany. They said it's an acrylic-based mushroom. The ones that they're using, there are organic ones that actually glow. They just have ones that don't for the experiment itself. So it's important for the experiment that that's an inorganic one, so they can regulate like how much light should come in and out, and they can, you know, modulate the LED strength. They can say like where to end up in. Yeah, you have stuff to make these too, Tiffany. I guess based on the intro of the video, these were located in the Amazon. So unfortunately, if you started to put them outside, it probably wouldn't elicit anything because the insects wouldn't know how to respond to it. But it'd still be really, really cool though. Too weird or squishy to have a deep dive into how environmental pressure may have affected developing intelligence in humans versus dolphins. The dolphin one, Nelf, might be too difficult to identify. We have looked into some dolphin science, and it's very near non-existent, Nelf. There's a lot more anthropology and hypotheses on why humans have certain amounts of intelligence, and like why they're like we've come out a certain way, and like how environmental pressures have acted on it. However, I don't know if there's anything reasonable about that on dolphins. I mean, with humans too, right? You can't be doing the experimentation, but there might be a couple of at least interesting hypotheses. It seems like the dolphins are pretty barren, but if you were to request it, I would 100%. We can dig into it now. If I just would warn you that there would be a fair bit of squishiness on that front. It's just like a warning ahead of time. All right, let's continue.
The same wavelength as the mushrooms, so it's producing the same colored light. And so we're comparing the amount and the type of insects that are on the dark traps to the light traps. And by looking at the two sets of data, we can tease apart, which insects are attracted to the light and which insects are repelled by the light and which insects just don't care about the light.
And they're built in a pretty cool way. Tiffany, I'd love to see you build some stuff like this. I think it'd be really neat. I figured you wouldn't put it outside, but like for the experimental purposes of like, presumably in your area, I don't think you're in the Amazon, Tiffany. If you were to put these out, you shouldn't have any differences in what animals you're attracting, whether it be, in terms of the insects, because they're just not evolved to detect glowing mushrooms, right? Versus if you talked about earlier tonight, these caves, so these glowing organisms are glowworms, and they actually release strands of silk with little beads, and then they release glow into them. And that glow actually attracts predators, or not predators, prey. The worms are the predators, and they eat them. And so we were talking a lot about bioluminescence, of how it worked in these animals and other animals as well. We're actually talking about like the ocean floor bioluminescence, of why there's so many in the ocean that bioluminesce versus land, and what few land animals bioluminesce. Hello, Mom Boss Lady, welcome in. It almost looks like a scene from the movie Avatar. But these are in caves in Australia. There are the strands that you can see. They release their light along the strands. These are caves in Australia and New Zealand. They're also in really dense forests in Australia that have been identified. Miss 369 Fam! Hello, Miss 369 Fam. Welcome on in. How you doing tonight? Welcome. And so the video we were just chatting about, I'm going to restart it. These are bioluminescing mushrooms or fungi. They are one of the very few animals that on land they end up actually bioluminescing. On land we have got a couple of insects, and then the kingdom of fungi, there's a couple of fungi that do as well. The Maldives, that I believe so, Pimcat, those are dinoflagellates. I think those are dinoflagellates, not algae. I'll have to double check, but I think it's primarily the dinoflagellates that do the fluorescence, I believe. So this is just a quick look at the fungi, and the researchers actually built, you'll see, fake fungus that they allowed to, they made it so it has the ability to glow, and because they wanted to know why does this fungus glow. And so they did it by making a fake one, putting an LED light into it, and having the hypothesis of if insects are more attracted to the glowing mushrooms or not. Which is pretty cool.
Right now, we're not sure why the fungi bioluminesce. And that's what we're trying to do right now, is figure out why.
So organisms bioluminesce for various reasons, but it's probably all started out from just basic detoxifying processes that happen in the cells. And some of the antioxidants, as they break down, give off light. As these traits evolve, other organisms go on to gain additional functions, like fireflies use their light system for mating and communication between species. A lot of that also happens inside the marine environment. But right now, we're not exactly clear as to why mushrooms do it.
The experiment that I'm performing out in the field is an ecology experiment where we are trying to understand the interaction of the mushrooms with insects. And so to do this, we're using fake acrylic mushrooms that we've produced in the lab and putting them out in the field covered in glue. Some of them have an LED light that has about the same wavelength as the mushrooms, so it's producing the same colored light. And so we're comparing the amount and the type of insects that are on the dark traps to the light traps. And by looking at the two sets of data, we can tease apart, which insects are attracted to the light and which insects are repelled by the light and which insects just don't care about the light. Through this, we can better understand the interaction of these mushrooms with their environment. It's very likely that the bioluminescence from the mushrooms has some ecological significance in the forest. Based off of our early results or early data, it definitely looks like insects are attracted to the mushrooms. Now, what role those insects are doing requires further study. Fungi are at this special moment right now where the research is really beginning to progress, and we're likely to figure out the mechanism within the next few years.
Not tethered by earthly limitations. What does that mean? Come.
Andrew, sleep well. We are also just about to wrap up the evening. Don't worry, Andrew. I may have one eye on the time. Not a full eye, but part of an eye. Sleep well, Andrew. Thank you for being amazing. Actually, that's what we're going to find out tonight. So that was looking at why the mushrooms might be fluorescing or doing that bioluminescence, and it's hypothesized maybe to attract insects, but figuring out that downstream is still going to take a fair bit of work to do. You have to identify what exactly the insects are doing, why they're attracted, what's modulating the attraction between the two animals, both the fungus and the insect side of things. But it's, again, another example of these bioluminescent animals. And like we talked about, there's far fewer on land than there are in the oceans. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. We did quite a deep dive today on both the bioluminescence and the behavior and ecology of glowworms, as well as just a broader look into bioluminescence on land and the ocean, examining why there's a difference between the two and how those chemical reactions worked.